All right, what's going on? Drive time, Friday afternoon style. About 3 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. Sean is gone. Our regular midday host is chasing gorillas somewhere in Africa or something for the next 2 weeks, so no crosstalk. So keep that in mind. We're running national programming while Sean is out of town, but we'll take care of you here in the afternoons for the next 4 hours. On this program, The Drive with Spence Checketts, that's my name. Hello, how are you? Porter Larson producing today. And we got a lot to do on a busy Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations, weekend time. We got smoked with snow this morning. The ski resorts got a ton of cheddar, of pow-pow, so get ready to slay. Porter, you know what it means. We got a great snowstorm today.
Stop.
And then we have sunshine tomorrow, so it's time to shred the gnar.
It is time to do that.
You blush when I say this. It makes you extremely uncomfortable when I say shred the gnar. I can see it.
You sound like my parents,
yeah,
or uncles and whatnot.
Well, I'm old enough to potentially be that. So congratulations to the ski resorts. Congratulations to all the snow bros out there, and get ready to shred the gnar. That's what you get to do. When it snows in Utah, then there's sun. It's a thing, Porter. People use the term shred the gnar. Just accept it.
I need to see you on here. All right. I'll allow it if
Okay.
I see you doing the thing.
You want to see me shred the gnar?
Yeah. Let's get you out on the slopes. Let's get you out with Andy Phillips. Let's get you sliding down the hill.
You know, once upon a time, I was shredding the gnar all the time. It just has been a while since I've shredded said gnar.
It's a hobby you got to kind of be all in on, much like golf. Mm-hmm. A lot of equipment.
Yep.
A lot of upkeep on the body and otherwise.
Yeah.
So I get it.
I'm not going to jump right in skiing with Andy. Andy skis gnar terrain. He shreds gnar terrain.
But he's also an instructor, so he can help you out.
Pizza French fries?
There you go.
I could probably pull off some pizza French fries these days, but happy Friday. Hope you have something fun planned. It actually looks like a pretty good weekend as far as the weather goes. So good chance to get up to ski, good chance to get outside and enjoy the final few weeks of cold weather as spring is right around the corner. So about 38 degrees. The sun is trying to shine this afternoon. We got about a 48-degree Saturday day, and then it's in the 50s and 60s for Sunday, Monday. Next week looks pretty nice. So lot to do. Friday show. Adam Silver is saying that significant changes are coming to the landscape of NBA basketball next year to avoid what the Utah Jazz have been doing for 4 years and to avoid what we saw last night in Washington, which was a hilarious scene, quite frankly. The Jazz met their match against the Wizards. Now, they won, but both teams were trying to lose. And it was kind of a funny watch. So we'll get into some NBA stuff. Ace Bailey looked really good last night. 32 points is his career high now. It was Trae Young's Washington debut. He is on a minute restriction, even though he's entirely healthy. It's just Washington's excuse to play him limited minutes. He played 19 minutes last night. So the Jazz get a win, but in this landscape of pro basketball, when you win, you actually lose. So we'll tell you what Adam Silver had to say today and talk about what those potential changes could mean for the NBA. We did see some high-quality basketball last night, and Victor Wembanyama continues to show everybody that he is not coming. He is here. He has arrived, and he's going to be here all night to make your life miserable. Really good game. And San Antonio is incredibly dangerous. The Nuggets beat the Lakers last night in a pretty entertaining game. The Kings fell to 14-50, and Russell Westbrook acted like a child afterwards during his media availability, per usual. So we did see some good games. The Warriors-Rockets game was pretty good. Now, we move over to what we do in the NBA every night now to decide exactly which games are worth watching. So we'll go over that in a little bit. We are entering the final portion of the college basketball regular season calendar. And, of course, on the women's side of things, they're already playing conference tournaments. For the men, be the final regular season game of the season. Utah is taking on Baylor. I believe Utah has locked in the last seed in the tournament. I think they're going to be the number 9 seed. BYU, it's senior night for them. They're going to take on Texas Tech down in Provo tomorrow. And then Utah State at 2 o'clock Mountain Time will welcome in New Mexico up in Logan for a chance to complete the regular season championship prior to the start of the Mountain West Conference tournament. So some big college basketball games on tap, not just tonight, but throughout the course of the weekend. Utah Mammoth will be in Columbus tomorrow for a 5 o'clock drop of the puck as far as the local stuff goes. Real Salt Lake on the road taking on Atlanta United FC on the road after beating Seattle to start things off as far as the home opener goes. So we'll see if RSL can continue to build some positive momentum while they wait for the majority of their most dangerous attacking pieces to get healthy. We have the list. You guys love the list, right? We have the list of the folks that will be in attendance should this meeting actually take place. It's actually going on right now. So the College Sports Presidential Roundtable at the White House is currently happening. We'll tell you what that list looks like. There's a couple of names that are of local interest. We'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. So there's a ton going on, a lot going on a Friday edition of the show. Good guest list today to bounce around on a bunch of different topics. We'll start things off with Sarah Todd from the Deseret News, covers the Utah Jazz, and big picture NBA stuff with Sarah as well. She's written some pretty good pieces over the past couple of weeks, so we'll bring in Sarah to start things off. Our friend Howard Beck from The Ringer will join us to talk more NBA basketball, his thoughts on the historic performance last night from Victor Wembanyama and these changes evidently coming to the NBA, as Adam Silver outlined some things today. Spencer Litton, our friend from BYU TV, will talk some Big 12 basketball and see if he believes that BYU still has some juice left in them. 1-4 without Richie Saunders. Texas Tech is 3-1 after JT Toppin went down. Both these two teams tomorrow. Toppin's probably Tech's best player. Richie's not BYU's best player, but certainly a key cog. So see what Spencer has to say about that. We'll do a little golf today as well. On a Friday, Paul Pugmire will join us along with Jordan Bloxham from T-Box up in Centerville. He's a local pro that can help you get into some nice new golf clubs if you would like. The Players' Championship, which a lot of people believe is essentially the fifth major in the world of golf, gets going next week. Right now, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, an event that I was at last year. It was the first PGA event I've ever attended. It was a lot of fun down at Bay Hill. Let's see. We got round 2, still in progress for some. Daniel Berger might run away with this. 13 under par. And he's got a 6-stroke lead over Sahith Tagala and Ludwig Oberg. Akshay Bhatia in the mix as well. So we'll do a little golf today on the program. So Sarah Todd, Howard Beck, Spencer Litton, Paul Pugmire, Jordan Bloxham, me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners on this Friday afternoon, and the producer of this program, Porter Larson. Did you have a chance at all? Because we were talking during the final segment of the show yesterday, and it came... we pretty much came to a consensus that the game worth watching last night in pro basketball was San Antonio and Detroit. Detroit's sliding a little bit. Wembanyama is like impossible. 37 points, 18 rebounds, 5 blocks. And dudes are afraid to even go into the paint. Like, I don't know, since they've never gone through a playoff run, the old adage is, are they ready to win a championship? That dude feels as different to me as any player since LeBron kind of burst on the scene with Cleveland.
Oh, he's different in a multitude of ways, not just the way he looks, but his production as well. As you mentioned, he's just impossible guarding anything he does, really. He can shoot over you. He can, he's probably going to fill out a little bit more, and that will help him as well. But, I mean, just a remarkable player. He's already up to the top 250 in career blocks in the NBA. So in NBA history, he's already, if you go to like Basketball Reference and click on the all-time leaders, he's already in that category, tied now with Nikola Jokic. So both sides of the floor, just a remarkable watch. But you think I missed a second of Jazz Wizards?
I tuned into the end because I just wanted to see how these coaches were going to jockey back and forth to try to lose. It was pretty funny.
It was fun. No, so that's what had my attention on a Thursday, Spence.
Well, the Jazz met their match. You think you can lose? Check this out, bro. Don't at me. And yeah. Washington showed that they're the superior loser between the two poster children for tanking in the NBA.
Hey, I'll take the W. We'll focus on that tonight.
Well, we'll see. After all this, if they somehow stumble and lose the pick, honestly, it would be hilarious. There's a case to be made that they deserve it with how unserious they've been about this.
I guess so. I don't think they will, to be clear. I think they will move mountains to avoid that, but we shall see. We shall see how it ends up. And then, hey, you still have to worry about lottery balls. So
Indeed. All right, our first guest will be Sarah Todd to talk some Jazz and some NBA hoops on a Friday. But before Sarah stops by, courtesy of our good friends at Prize Picks, it is time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 with Prize Picks.
Shoot your shot on Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. Prize Picks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. Prize Picks makes every dunk, every diamond, every board that much more exciting. So don't miss this chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. It is available in Utah, so you can throw some chatter on Jazz lineups if you'd like. Good luck with that, because we never know who's going to play night tonight. We know who's not going to play night tonight, anyone who's good at playing basketball. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup, because on Prize Picks, it is good to be right. All right, yesterday, opening tip style. And without crosstalk, you guys get way too much of me for opening tip. We're doing 25-minute segments for the next 2 weeks to open the show. But we talked about really the way Alex Jensen and Wes Wilcox and Alex's staff and Mark Harlan and everybody involved with the Utah basketball program can turn this thing around to get them back into, I'll just say, a competitive space. I don't know that anybody should be expecting some sort of conference championship contention by next season. Not in this conference. Not in the best college basketball conference in America, with 6 or 7 teams that all have pretty decent odds to make the Final Four. That's not even including BYU. It's Arizona. It's Iowa State. It's Texas Tech, who BYU is going to see tomorrow. Of course, it's Houston. This conference is a bear. So to have expectations of Al being able to get this thing going to compete with the big dogs by next year, I don't think it's that realistic. But after what we just saw, and yes, there is one game left, and it's Baylor on the road, and Baylor's not very good, but neither was Colorado. And the Colorado game here in Salt Lake, you blinked, and they're down 20. And at halftime, they had been doubled up, right, against a bad team at home. So forgive me if I have very low expectations for tomorrow's season finale against Baylor. I will certainly be hopeful. And then the Big 12 tournament, I'm pretty sure they've locked in the last seed. There's actually a scenario in play where if BYU wins tomorrow and a couple of results go the way they need to, that Utah and BYU will play in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And honestly, it's better than some of the alternatives, because BYU's on a slide. They're banged up without Richie and Dawson Baker. And maybe Utah can make that a game, because it is a rivalry game and you can see those things get loose a little bit. Do I think they will? No. Will I leave space for the might? Absolutely. So throughout the course of this conversation concerning the current reality of college basketball, it's not really unlike the current reality of college football. When it comes to the ability, if you can get the economic support that you need, and then you're able to sell your story to players that are available, you can do what Indiana football did last year. You can do what a lot of these basketball teams have done. The Miami of Ohio story is getting a lot of traction today, but there are plenty of teams that were nowhere to be found last year in the landscape of college basketball that had a 1-year turnaround as a result of utilizing NIL and the ability to have powerful boosters come to your aid. Arkansas is an example. Miami is an example. St. Louis has a 1-year turnaround. There are plenty of teams have had 1-year turnarounds. So Utah can do this. We have proof of concept with other teams that have economic support and ultimately have a coaching staff and a not just a coaching staff now, right? Like you have to basically build out a front office with a general manager. Wes Wilcox is that for Utah basketball. The questions still remain about how, the power of the purse. What does that look like for Utah basketball? Can they at least get a piece of this pie? I'm not even saying Texas Tech and BYU, the two biggest spenders in the Big 12 by far, Texas Tech and BYU. I don't know that Utah is ever going to get there. It would be nice if they could, but as close to it as possible, because while money isn't the only thing that you need to build a winning roster in college basketball and college football, we saw a lot of college football teams spend a ton of money on rosters, and it didn't work out. And speaking of which, I can't cooperate this, and Brian Kelly is a crusty man. I don't really know much about his relationship with Lane Kiffin. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they don't like each other. $40 million. That's the rumor as far as what LSU spent on talent in Lane Kiffin's first season as head coach. $40 million. And that blows the budget out of the water. I don't know how much of that is full rev share, how much of that is NIL, but that's a new benchmark right there. And we're just going to see the numbers rise and rise and rise. I mean, there's a report today from The Athletic that there's a new private equity group that has presented some power brokers, namely in the Big Ten and in the SEC, the two main college football conferences right now, with a model that would essentially pull every single television right as far as conference, all the TV rights pulled into one basic pile. And then you use that as leverage to go negotiate, and then essentially it goes to the highest bidder, or the guess would be the highest bidder's multiple. And that wouldn't get NFL money, but it would get money that no other sport is even close to seeing. And so, as the revenue streams continue to grow, because live TV rights just continue to go up, almost regardless of what your product is. I mean, the NBA is a great example. The NBA puts unserious basketball on television for 5 months, and they still signed a $72 billion TV deal. If the NBA can get $72 billion, can you imagine what sort of leverage this new proposal would have if every single look, P2 is what it is in college football, but they would bring the Big 12 along for the ride. Until the rumor of the Big 10 and the SEC finally just saying, okay, guys, best of luck, go do your thing. Until that actually happens, we have to operate off the premise that it will be a Big 4 or a P4 situation, even though the Big 10 and the SEC are the power brokers, and it's undeniable. But a new private equity group, I believe it's called Smash Capital, which to me is a perfect private equity name for football bros. Smash Capital. It's not Otro Capital, the Utah private equity guys. It's called Smash Capital. And this is like a subsidiary of it called Smash Sports that have presented this blueprint of a plan that would bring all of the TV rights together and then therefore be able to go to market with a really powerful negotiating tool. And, there are a lot of, I'm not a lawyer, so there are a lot of things you'd have to kind of decipher through. How exactly will you get out of your current TV deal if you're going to go to market with a new one right away? Is it a proposal to wait until these TV deals expire? I think with the Big 12, that's 2032. But the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, of course, Notre Dame is going to be part of this, the ACC. Those are your four conferences that would be part of this new reality. And if you read the piece in The Athletic, it sounds very much just like the NFL model that we've talked about on this show for about 5.5, 6 years now, ever since the rumors of NIL and transfer portal came to light, because this always felt like the final landing spot, the most logical conclusion. And oh, by the way, it is the format and it is the blueprint that would alleviate most of the issues that people still complain about. And yes, I still do believe the players should unionize and collectively bargain with whoever's going to be in charge of this new format. And there are complications there, but they can be overcome, because this would allow for things like a salary cap. This would allow for things like players to sign multi-year deals. So you get a player on campus that signs a 4-year deal and has the option after 3 to opt out if he's an NFL player, right? And that way you do away with free agency every single year. We don't have to worry about the transfer portal anymore. And how nice would that be? There actually are regulations in place. And it would be kind of, I guess, would be like the NFL model, it'd be like a hard cap. So LSU couldn't spend $40 million while Utah spends 20 or whatever it is. Those discrepancies would be done away with in this model that this private equity firm has come to the table with. Now, it is a long way away, but I'll tell you, if the Big Ten and the SEC say this is the direction we're going, you better get ready for it to go in that direction, regardless of how you feel about the Big 12 or the ACC. And then the ultimate real question as it pertains to our local teams is if the reality, and some people believe it's an inevitability, of this 2-conference structure becomes what we're dealing with in college football, are BYU and Utah invited to sit at those tables? My gut tells me yes. Now, if the answer to that is no, it doesn't mean doomsday for college football, period, right? Because there will be what we've learned with how people are consuming sports on multiple platforms, and now streaming services like Netflix and Hulu and such, is that there's always going to be inventory demand from people that are in charge of putting things on television and streaming services. So if this thing goes down and the Big Ten and the SEC just go do their own thing, they will get the largest, television deal by far. But it won't be like it was with the Pac-12, where after Brett Yormark was able to snag a deal for the Big 12, what became a reality almost instantly, and it's still so stunning that this happened over the course of like 72 hours. The Big 12 signed their deal, and there wasn't any left for the Pac-12. And nobody really saw that coming. George Kliavkoff clearly overplayed his hand and overpaid his leverage and should have accepted the deal that was on the table for the Pac-12. You understand why you asked for more, but it became very stark very quickly that Brett Yormark got the last TV deal on the market and the Pac-12 died. That won't happen here. So, the question remains, if BYU, Utah, if they can't get the invite to this eventual reality of the 2-conference table situation, there still will be quality college football played here. What does that look like? I don't know, because then you get into the space of who else did not make, because the number of people float around is 40. I believe Utah and BYU clearly are they're clearly 2 of the 40 best football programs in America. But we also have to be grown-ups about where we live and what our market size is and how people view Salt Lake City and how television executives view our market is from a media perspective. That will be part of it, right? So I believe that at the end of the day, when the dust settles, the invite will be there. The question remains, if it's not, what does it look like? And we'll have to wait and see. So the list came down. Ross Dellinger got this. The college football, what are they calling it? The College Sports Presidential Roundtable at the White House is going on right now. Taylor Randall is there. Ted Cruz is there. Sweet. I've actually decided I feel bad for Ted Cruz. Have I informed you of this? I've actually landed in a space where I have sympathy for Ted Cruz.
Sorry, I just got a call from Gordy Chiesa.
Does Gordy want to come on the show?
He's going to come on with you next week.
Hell yes. I was just saying, I'm reading this list, and now there's pictures surfacing, and I've just decided that I have a tremendous amount of sympathy for Ted Cruz.
I didn't ever think that would come out of your mouth. I'm just wondering where the invite was.
For me? Oh, I got the invite.
Us.
I got the invite. I have a job. Now, this has nothing to do with politics. He has to live his life with that face. There's not a more punchable face in the world than Ted Cruz, and I think it's sad.
Okay. I think you should have gone to the meeting.
Debate me on that, please.
No, you're not. I'm not debating you on that.
This is not a political stance at all. Every time I see a picture of that man, I'm just like, oh, dude, get up every day and look in the mirror, and you're like, here we go. Got to live my life looking like this.
What about Grayson Allen? You like him?
He does look like Grayson Allen. But you know what they say about politics? Hollywood for ugly people. We will get to this list. Nick Saban in the house, Urban Meyer in the house, and President Taylor Randall from the U is in attendance as well. All right, we'll get back to this, and we'll give you some more details. I'll send you to The Athletic. I think it was Russo who wrote the piece. It's on the front page about this new private equity proposal. And they're claiming that this is the fix that college athletics, namely college football, needs. And what does it mean for Utah and BYU? But we'll catch a break. We'll bring in Sarah Todd coming up from the Deseret News to talk some Jazz. That's Howard Beck, Spencer Litton, Paul Pugmire, and Jordan Block. Some busy Friday show. It's good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. The college sports presidential roundtable is happening as we speak. Taylor Randall is there, president of the University of Utah. So any takeaways that are actually real, we will bring to you. The Utah Jazz are off tonight. They met their match last night. The two poster children for tanking in the NBA in our nation's capital. And the Jazz won. But did they really? Sarah Todd, Deseret News on a Friday. Hello, Sarah. Happy Friday. How are you?
Happy Friday. They met their match, and I'm like, did they?
Yeah,
they're
go ahead.
The match is the Wizards are so bad, even the tanking Jazz can beat them. Congratulations.
Right. I mean, it's such a wild way to consume NBA basketball now, but it's what we're all doing. And I'm watching last night to see which coach can out-jockey the other to actually, finagle a loss in an endeavor where you're supposed to be serious about competing. It's a really weird time to be watching NBA basketball, Sarah.
Yeah, I feel like it's even worse anytime the Jazz face anybody in the Eastern Conference because it feels like a joke outside of maybe the top two teams probably every season. And so these are tough days, Vince.
They sure are. I'm getting a sense that a lot of people around the NBA ecosystem nationally really are turned off as it pertains to the way the Jazz have done this. So much so you see a lot of polls going around, like which team do you want to get the number one overall pick? And I feel like there's a sentiment that people actually do not want the Jazz to be rewarded for what they perceive to be a very insulting approach to tanking, even though so many other teams are doing it. Do you kind of get that same sense at all?
I don't know. I think, I've talked about this quite a bit. I think that there's kind of a larger conversation around tanking, maybe because this NBA season in particular, it's not like this hasn't been the best NBA season in general as far as just kind of like wow storylines go. There's a lot of injured stars. It's not quite big intrigue, and everyone's kind of just waiting for the playoffs to start. And that comes in addition to the fact that it's a big, top end draft class. And so you've got a lot of people that are jockeying for a lot of that top end talent, a lot of teams, I should say. And so I think that maybe the tanking conversation has gotten just a little bit inflated. But listen, to anyone that doesn't like the way that the Jazz are doing it, to them I say, I was there. I covered the NBA and I covered the Sixers when they were fielding teams of players who intentionally were brought to the team because they were this is not my word, for lack of a better word, they were losers. They wanted players that they knew could not win against NBA competition. They put together a roster of players that they never intended to develop them. They never intended for them to be players in the NBA, and most of them were not. I mean, we're talking about on a night-to-night basis, the absolute best that you could ever expect to get of the Sixers was Robert Covington or Nerlens Noel. That was the best that they had to offer, and they did it on purpose. And I also covered the NBA when I watched the Oklahoma City Thunder play Poku at point guard for 41 minutes when they were in a tank-off against the Portland Trailblazers one night. What the Jazz are doing is not any more disrespectful than what other teams have done many, many times over many decades in the NBA. So it's just if people are overly disrespectful or feel some type of way about the Jazz, the way that they're doing it, it's man, I'm sorry that they actually are going to have a passable NBA team next year. That's not my fault. And the Jazz have done everything within the NBA's ecosystem. And so if there's a problem with the way the Jazz are doing it, then it's an NBA problem, not a Jazz problem.
Why do you think the Jazz were fined $500,000?
I think that the Jazz were fined $500,000 because you can't put over-unders and betting lines on players if you're going to pull them in the fourth quarter.
So so much of this is that. Isn't it interesting? Now, it's not only that, because to your point, and we've outlined this on the show. I mean, you can go back to what the Houston Rockets did in the 80s to get Akeem Olajuwon. You can go back to what the Spurs did in 1997 to get Tim Duncan. Like, none of this is new. What is a little bit new is how many teams are unserious about trying to win. About at least 9, maybe 10. Obviously, New Orleans isn't, because they're going to lose their pick. They're trying to be good. They just suck. And so, to your point, none of this is new. I think the amount of teams doing it, and also this early in the calendar, is new. But I don't know if you want to put a percentage on it. How much of this is, in your estimation, just how in bed the NBA is with these gambling partners now?
I mean, they're definitely in bed, right? I think the hope for the NBA is that they can continue to foster those relationships, right? Because they open the door to this kind of wide open arms, open the door to the betting world, the gambling world back in, I think it was 2018. And I think that they want to foster those relationships so that the revenue that is generated to the NBA through these gambling partnerships can be larger. Because I read a story this morning, I think through The Athletic, that, Fred VanVleet was talking about. He's the president of the Players Association. And he was talking about how, gambling only accounts for 1% of the basketball revenue that is shared between the players and the teams and the league. And so, his point was, 1% is not enough. It's not enough to be making decisions based on it. It's not enough to open the door to all these problems. Like, we should not be, making any decisions or deciding anything based on 1% of what the revenue is. But I think that the point is that if you continue to foster that relationship, then it grows to 5%. Now we're talking about a much bigger number when we're talking about numbers at that scale, and when revenue per team per game is in surplus of $5 million, right? And so, like, if you're talking about 30 teams who play 82 games a season, like the basketball revenue that is generated, 5% of that, the many billions of dollars, is a very big number. And so there is part of me that believes that it really is based on the anger that you get from the gambling houses, betting houses, odds makers, however you want to classify them. I don't really know where else this ire would come from, because it's not like the Jazz got fined when they were resting sleepy 23-year-old Walker Kessler last year. He needed rest games.
Yep. And
they didn't get fined when they did that all the time. The Jazz didn't get fined for Lauri Markkanen's incredibly impinged hip, or because Yusuf Nurkic wanted to have surgery on his deviated septum during the course of the regular season, which is a thing we all know happens all of the time. There's some sarcasm here.
Oh, I got it, Sarah. Believe I'm just sitting here chuckling. You keep going.
But the only time that they fined them is when they pulled players in the fourth quarter. Now, the NBA didn't say, oh, well, if you would have not played them in the third quarter and played them in the fourth, then that would have been fine. Like, they didn't say, oh, if you don't play them in the fifth. They specifically didn't like that they pulled them late in the game. And I feel like the only thing that impacts are over-unders.
Yeah, look, you're on to a very strong scent, and there's a very reductive, simple way to kind of explain most issues with big business, and it's simply follow the money, right? I mean, that usually is where the answer lies, because as you articulated and as you outlined, none of this is new. I think some of it is a little bit more intentional and in your face. Do you feel the Jazz were singled out? Do you feel like the Jazz were made the poster child unfairly for a dynamic that is occurring throughout this league, maybe a third of the league doing the same thing, maybe just using different language?
I mean, I think that the Jazz were made a poster child for that very specific type of tanking. But also, like, one of the things you said, Spence, is like maybe this is happening earlier in the season. Like, listen, the brazen tanking has always happened late in the season. We rest guys the last 10, 20, 15 games of the season. The injuries become more cautious and longer, right? Like, we're all used to seeing that across the league for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But make absolutely no mistake, teams tank in November.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just the Jazz. Like, anybody across the league tell me that you believe that Kyle Filipowski should be playing center minutes in November and tell me that the Jazz weren't tanking. Or when they put out lineups when they have two undersized guards on the court at the same time when Lauri Markkanen is playing. Like, these things are by design. These decisions are not being made because the Jazz are like, oh, we think this is a great idea that is a winning concept. Like, no. Like, that happens across the league. That is not just the Jazz. And so, and the league knows that those decisions happen and that teams do that early in the season, and it just becomes a little bit more brazen as the season goes along. And so I don't think that necessarily the Jazz were made an example of when it comes to kind of the broader term tanking, because everyone does it and everyone gets away with it every year for the most part. But what they did make them a poster child for was, do not cross this line. There's a specific instance that we're talking about, which is if you're going to play your stars, they better play the full game. And so that's what we're talking about.
It's a slippery slope when the league starts telling coaches who to play and when. There's no doubt about that. I want to talk about a piece you wrote, and you guys can find this on Sarah's Twitter page, at NBA Sarah, because I've been talking about what you wrote about for 4 years. Because there is a danger. Winning and losing are habits, and you become accustomed to both. There's a danger that creeps in when your players because Will is in on this. I mean, obviously, I don't know how the line of delineation is communicated, whether it's Ryan to Austin to Danny to Will. They're all on the same page with what they're doing, which is trying to manipulate results in the name of keeping their draft capital. But when you have coaches and players that know they are a part of an organization that is not trying to win games, which is just a wild thing to consider when it comes to pro sports, there's a danger that you become accustomed to losing games and bad habits creep in. But you wrote, I'll just read the headline, the Jazz might be tanking, but they aren't creating a culture of losing. Help me understand this.
Yeah, I mean, I just disagree. So there's that. But because I think that, were the Spurs creating a losing culture when they tanked to get, Tim Duncan or David Robinson or even Wemby? Like, did they make those players that are on the team outside of those draft picks, did they make those losing players? Or did they tank and get good players and they were good? I mean, the Cavs tanked and they got LeBron. The many teams, did the Thunder tanking while Shea was on the team, sitting him and making him sit for what was like 60 games because he had plantar fasciitis or whatever it was. Like, they didn't make Shea Gilgeous-Alexander a losing player. They didn't create bad habits there. I just don't think that happens when you have good coaching and you are actually working on creating good culture on your team, and you can get players to buy in and understand that they're working for the future, and you can make players understand that the competition for the future, when the games matter, the things that they're doing now are going to show up. And I think that there are so many examples that we have across the NBA over years where tanking teams don't create losing culture. They just lose until they get better. They tank and then they get good players and they get better. And I have been around a team that did not have that, right? There's different types of tanking. It's not created equal. What the Jazz are doing, it's they have good players. They manipulate the lineups. They manipulate the injury report. And they're trying to lose as many games as they can with still having good players on the roster and developing talent that they hope will be here in the future in order to still get a good lottery pick. Now, you've compare that to like the process era Sixers, like I mentioned before, like where they were not developing talent. They were just putting together whatever crappy G League version of a team they could, whatever was passable as NBA players, so that they could bottom out to get the best possible draft picks. Now that is a bad culture. That creates a situation where you walk into the locker room and the players don't have hope. They know what the score is. They knew what it was in Philly. They knew that they weren't brought in because, someone saw like maybe we've got a diamond in the rough with Jakar Sampson. Like no one believed that. And so the players, they know that and they internalize that and they feel it and they know that there's probably not an NBA career waiting for them. But that's not how that is on the Jazz roster. Like these players feel like they've been invested in. They feel like the coaching staff truly cares about them. They see, change on the horizon. They know the Jazz are going to try and start winning games this year. I don't think that Keontae George has become a loser over the last 3 years. If anything, I think that he's changed for the better during that time.
Yeah, there's some good examples. And to your point, there's some team, and it comes down to one thing, and it's always come down to one thing. Because if you're telling me, like, if you say, did the Spurs create a losing culture by tanking to get Victor Wembanyama? I'll just say they just got Victor Wembanyama. Did they create a losing culture by getting Tim Duncan? I'll just say, well, they got Tim Duncan. Now, if the same cycle, the Boston Celtics tanked to try to get Duncan, they didn't. They got, I think, Billups and Ron Mercer, and they were losers for a decade. So it's not about whether or not it creates a culture of losing. It's about whether or not your process lands you a franchise-changing piece. And if this process doesn't land the Jazz a franchise-changing piece, even if they're forward-facing, if they fall to 7. And look, maybe, who knows, maybe the 7th best prospect this year blows everyone's minds and turns out to be a franchise-changing piece. But if this entire 4-year process doesn't breed a pillar, then they are in danger of becoming the process era Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a broader way that I would say it is like, tanking teams don't create losing culture, but bad management does. And I think that is, you can use that across sports, across teams in any way that you want it. Like if you look at the Sacramento Kings, like, yeah, could they have drafted Luka Doncic and made different decisions and things would have been totally different in Sacramento? Yes, they absolutely could have, but they've run that team into the ground time over time over time. And so now you've got, it's just a carousel of different coaches trying to come in and change things. But no matter what coach is brought in, the contracts, the players, nothing is the right fit. And so nothing seems to work because it's just poorly managed. And I think to your point, like that's what happens. If you tank and you get good players and then you can build around those competently, if you have good management and good decision makers and you build a good team, then, things go well. You look at the Wizards, right? They had John Wall and Bradley Beal, but they never put anything that was like really good around. No one ever truly believed in those Wizards teams because everything that was put around them and every time they made a decision, it was bad, even when they continued to re-sign both of those players. And so I just don't think that losing culture is made because teams tank. I think that losing culture is made because there's bad decisions. Yeah.
And so let me just follow up based off of your piece. Because it sounds like you believe, even though the Jazz have not been trying to win, you are a fan of the culture that they are building. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely I am. And I think that a lot of the reason that I believe in the culture that they're building is because on a night-to-night, day-to-day, off days on the road, et cetera, basis, I see these players and I see their attitudes and the hope that they have for the future, the joy that they have around the game. And I think that if you really don't believe in what a team is doing, if you don't believe in yourself, if you're losing confidence in the potential for winning in the future, that you don't have joy, you don't have hope. Like those are the things that leave quickly. And this team has a lot of hope and a lot of joy.
Yeah, I've said this for years. The beat writers are always the ones to go to because you're just there in a way that most of the rest of us are not. So let's move into what most of us believe will be a team that's actually trying hard next year. So I think we'll operate off the premise, and we'll move it with just for the sake of time. I'm going to ask you the question away from what I perceive to be the core, and of course, I think Ace is, I think Keontae is, obviously Lowry, Jaren Jackson Jr., Walker. Like I think we have a good idea of what the core looks like of the best players. But I think there are legitimate questions. Like there are some nights that Isaiah looks really good. Of course, the questions there are about his outside shooting. What position does Kyle Filipowski play? Have they seen enough from Bryce Sensabaugh to make him part of the future? Cody Williams, Vince Williams Jr., who I think was more than a throw-in in that Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. So away from like the core, the other players that seem to still have questions, how many of them, Sarah, do you think are around for the long haul?
Yeah, that's great question, Spence. I would love to answer that if I could. I think that's the biggest part that's going to happen this offseason, or maybe even like bleeding into next season leading up to the trade deadline. I think, because you have that main five that you're talking about, right? Like that's the core, but we know basketball. We know that like five guys don't play together. They don't hockey substitutions in basketball, and so it's not like those five guys will be playing together all the time. And so you need to know not only what other guys are good enough to just be on an NBA roster when you're thinking about the postseason, but which guys are going to be good when they play with Jaren and Lowry, or which guys are good when they're playing with Keontae and Jaren. And so pairings, three-man lineups that look really good together, like I think that's kind of the sort of stuff that you wish that you had a little bit of this season going into next season, like as a data point. But kind of based on what we've seen, it's a lot of those question marks are ones that I think are going to make some really tough decisions. Bryce Sensabaugh, Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier. I am with you. I thought that Vince Williams was a super good pickup, especially considering kind of the lack of perimeter defense that the Jazz have. And so that would have been such a good, cheap way to fill a need on the bench. And it's my understanding that the Jazz aren't going to be picking up his option. I mean, he's going to be out all of next season probably. And so that's just such an unfortunate situation. I do think that they really like John Conchar. And so I'd be surprised if they got rid of him this summer. I'd be surprised. And I think that he'll probably be on the roster. I think there's a lot of hope surrounding Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski. I think there's a lot of grace that's going to be given to Kyle Filipowski because he's played so much five this year, and the Jazz and the rest of the NBA know that he can't play five in the NBA. That's just not who he is. He's an NBA four if he's anything. And so, because they've played him out of position knowingly, I think that there's going to be a little bit of grace given to him where there might not be for other players. But yeah, I would be, if I was named Bryce Sensabaugh, Cody Williams, I'd be pretty worried this summer.
Before I say you lose, just away from the Jazz for a moment, because I know you actually watch NBA basketball. Are the Spurs ready? I mean, I'm always just hesitant and I think most people who cover or have watched the league for a long time want to see a playoff run or two before a team gets to the finals. That's usually how it goes. Even LeBron in 2007 carrying that horrible Cavs team to the finals. They went to the second round the year before and played in a good series against the Pistons. But every time I just hone in on a Spurs game specifically, I've never seen anything like this kid. Obviously, everyone knows that Victor Wembanyama is next level special. What are you willing to say about what you think they can do this year?
Yeah, I mean, your point about LeBron is so important in this exact conversation because, like, one of my favorite things is when people are like, well, that's never been done in the NBA or that's never happened. And, like, yeah, until it has. Right. Like, one of these days we're going to be saying, oh, yeah, that happened. And the types of players that do those things that have never been done before are players like LeBron James, like Victor Wembanyama. He is otherworldly. He's totally different. And so, like, I think that what I'm willing to say about the Spurs is, like, yeah, there haven't been many young teams that have made it to the finals. And if the Spurs were the one to do it, it wouldn't shock me. And if it was Wemby that was able to take a young team all the way from not being in the playoffs to being in the finals, that would not shock me. And I just think things haven't happened until they do. And the fact that we're even having that conversation about the Spurs team is really exciting to me.
Agreed. Sarah, good stuff today. A little sarcasm, a little fire, a little knowledge. It's the comprehensive Sarah Todd experience. I always enjoy it. Thank you very much, okay?
The best of Sarah Todd. You're welcome.
Love it. Sarah Todd, Deseret News. She's been writing some really good pieces as of late on the culture that she perceives the Jazz are building. A good piece on the effect of gambling and the decision-making process of the NBA. And it's really undeniable. I mean, you guys watch NBA basketball. Well, some of you do. I think a lot of you have tapped out because, well, regardless, you're watching and you're just hit over the head every moment with live over-unders, live point spreads. I've talked about this over the past couple of weeks. It's one of the reasons I really enjoyed the Olympics. They weren't hitting you over the head with live gambling odds. The NBA clearly is in bed with these companies. Part of me just wants to say, like, do you need all the money? I'm a grown-up. I know what capitalism is. I know the point of a front-facing entertainment business is to generate tremendous revenue. But, like, to what end? Especially if it's affecting the way you're running your league and if it's affecting the product. So some good stuff from Sarah today. Appreciate her time. All right, 1 hour down, 3 hours to go. Howard Beck will join us coming up next. Spencer Litton, our friend from BYU TV. We'll do some golf today with Paul Pugmire and Jordan Bloxham. Busy Friday show. Happy Friday to you. Keep it right here on ESPN 700. Oh, I failed in my weekly Howard Beck responsibility to get you a hipster song. So you just went with Beck.
I guess kind of a hipster song.
This actually
And talking about losing.
Yeah, it actually might work. And there's a small part of me that believes, even though there's irony laced into it, that Howard Beck might actually like the artist Beck. Your thoughts, Howard? How are you, sir?
I was laughing as soon as I heard the opening notes. I'm like, I don't think I've ever actually been brought in to Beck before, at least not on this program. So, yeah, I'll take it. Love Beck. He's awesome. Saw him in concert many, many, many years ago back before we left L.A. I'm not sure if Porter is like trying to like subtweet me by queuing up "Loser" specifically.
No.
I guess
that's an NBA tie, not a Howard Beck tie.
Oh, okay, all right. I mean, listen. There were other possible like worse options. Like if you'd gone with Jackass, then I would have been really upset. So, although it's a great song.
Well, Porter, well done, because I completely botched my responsibility. But of course, we've been discussing the fact that the Utah Jazz met their match last night in the nation's capital. I was really curious about how this was going to go between two coaches that have been clearly told, "Hey, we got to hold on to the asset." The Jazz won, Howard, but did they?
I mean, listen, to the point of the song, Beck had it right. Like, we're all losers at this point. The whole league is losing because of tanking, and you lose if you win, you lose if you lose. Like, it's a sad state of affairs. I mean, I turned on that game solely to watch, like, oh, Trae Young's going to play and make a cameo before they find some reason to shut him down with a sore ankle or something. And so I watched Trae Young score his first points and get his first assists for the Wizards, and then I moved on to other games myself.
Any thoughts on why the Washington Wizards seem to have been escaping punishment from the league office?
Oh, God, are we doing this again?
We don't have to.
I mean, if the Wizards had a 17-point lead in the third quarter and then pulled all their starters, they would have gotten fined $500,000 too.
Would you like to discuss whether or not John Conchar is going to be part of the rotation next year, Howard? There's just nothing interesting about the Jazz. I'm sorry.
No, there really isn't. I will say, like, to the point with the Wizards, like they made two trades for two multiple-time All-Stars in Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and now both guys were hurt when they got there, so they had cover, and that's the whole thing here, right? Like, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and we'll end up talking about it more. And I'm sorry to like deride all of the Utah concerns with West you're being picked on, but you have to shroud it at least a little bit. Like I think the NBA, it's like with tampering. The NBA talks a good game about tampering, we're going to crack down and this and that. It depends on how blatant it is, and the more blatant it is, the more likely you are to get slapped. And if you do it in a way where you've got some cover and it doesn't look as embarrassing to the league, then you kind of get to coast. And that's what the Wizards have done with Trae Young and Anthony Davis, who already were hurt when they got them. And then they could just say, oh, we're making sure that they're, in good enough shape before we bring them back. We don't want to risk further injury. That's the game that everybody's playing.
Right. And, as we discussed, and we're not going to spend a lot of time in the space, it's not new. It's been going on for years. I'll ask you one more question. Does it feel like more teams are doing it earlier in the calendar? Look, plenty of teams tank to start the season. The Jazz did. The Jazz have been doing that. But does it feel like there are more teams that have decided they don't want to win earlier in the NBA calendar than usual?
It just depends on which version of tanking we're talking about. So, like, when you've designed a roster to be, obsolete and just bad on day one, as like Brooklyn and Washington did the last couple of years, like that's one version of it where they're not manipulating anything. They just simply put together an intentionally poor or very young and raw roster. The version of it where you start pulling the plug on guys, which is what the Utah Jazz did. By the way, absolute all-timer Yusuf Nurkic season-ending nose surgery. I don't think that phrase has been written or uttered in the history of the NBA until a couple weeks ago. Season-ending deviated septum surgery is just an all-timer. Congratulations to the Utah Jazz. That's awesome. It should go in the tanking Hall of Fame. It's fantastic. I love it. The version of tanking where teams that were otherwise somewhat competitive but now need to do the race to the bottom usually started in like mid or late March. You usually start pulling the plug later. And what Utah and Indiana and others have done this season, and I think what got the league really, up in arms at the league level was, it was happening more brashly than ever before, more brazen than ever before, and earlier than ever before. And in my memory, this is also the earliest and the most brazen. So I think it all kind of tracks.
Can I ask you one more I live in Salt Lake and you hate me question, please, Howard?
Go ahead.
Does it feel like there's a sentiment across the kind of NBA ecosystem that people do not want the Jazz to be rewarded for what they've done, and if they get the number 1 overall pick, some people might be a little bit disappointed?
I mean, I haven't had any conversations like that myself. I haven't heard anybody from another team say that. I think it's kind of just understood at this point. They've all done it at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not every team, but nobody's in any position to be throwing stones
For sure
about this.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. I will say, like a year ago at this time, when the Sixers started just steering themselves into the ditch to make sure that their top 6 protected pick didn't get conveyed, I think a lot of people around the league were really irked at that one. And, there's a lot of people who kind of have it in for Daryl Morey anyway. But like that one, I think got the attention of other teams. But I mean, this is what the Jazz have done. If a few of the moves were more brazen than usual, is still kind of within the realm of what we generally see, right? That in general, there's going to be a handful of teams, especially in a really strong draft year, who are doing this. So I don't sense that there's like some kind of resentment directed at the Jazz in particular. We had
Sarah Todd on last segment, who's one of the beat writers. She was a beat writer for Philly for a while, worked on the Warriors beat as well. Sarah's very good. She does a good job. We were debating whether or not there's danger, because you hear culture all the time. You hear winning culture, heat culture. This is part of the deal. We got to build it, and then results are going to come, whatever it is. 4 years now of more or less unserious basketball. Is there a danger of habits, kind of setting in that might be difficult to break when this team is actually serious about trying to win?
It depends on whether the players who you're tanking with actually figure into your future plans. So when the Sixers were going through the process and got, Joel Embiid out of it and Ben Simmons out of it, but also notably, of course, Markelle Fultz and Jahlil Okafor, the concern that was expressed at that time was, oh my God, all these guys losing habits, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, Joel Embiid became an MVP despite all that. And a lot of the guys that they cycled through weren't going to be NBA players for very long anyway, and they all spun off to other places. Notably, one of those guys, by the way, was TJ McConnell, who's actually had a really nice career. He was like a process guy. And, a Sixer, one of the guys that they kind of found and kind of developed a little bit before he went off elsewhere. And TJ McConnell was just in the NBA Finals as a key reserve for the Indiana Pacers. So I think it's a valid concern. I don't know that it applies uniformly to every player or every situation. And again, usually like what I'm seeing in my backyard with the Brooklyn Nets, I don't know how many of these guys are actually going to be there when the Nets are good again anyway. I do think, though, on a human level, this is really tough for players. Players want to compete and win. And if you have a roster constructed solely of like C-level players, some of those guys would thrive if they were playing on the Spurs as, the sixth man or the fifth starter. But a bunch of C-level players together can't do anything. And so good habits, bad habits, or otherwise, it just blows to be losing all the time, and it's really deflating, and it's really hard to hone the best version of yourself in this league if you don't have a star or high-level starters to play off of, because context is everything in this league. And there are guys who, look like, fringe players in one context but are key role players somewhere else. Look at what Champagne's doing with the Spurs after kicking around the league for a few years. And suddenly you're shining. And, like that's hugely valuable for him. And I'm sure feels a heck of a lot better than, being just one face in a crowd of average players.
Since it is recent news and I have your blue sky up, so I know that you've dissected this as well. Before we move into, things that are actually more fun to talk about, as Adam Silver continues to, and most recently at the Sloan Conference, be very emphatic that changes are coming to curtail this stuff. Do you have any insight as to what those changes will be and when we might hear about them?
His quote at Sloan today was interesting. I'm reading from, Mike Vorkunov, my buddy from The Athletic, who's up there. He quotes this. So Adam says, "We are going to make substantial changes for next year." So, of course, that sounds promising. But he goes on one hand, you could completely divorce the draft from teams' records. And then he says, that would be a major shock to the system, and not to completely forecast where we're going, but I am an incrementalist. So first he says substantial changes, but he ends with being an incrementalist, which suggests that he's going to make some small adjustments around the edges again. Somebody who used to work at the league office who I spoke to recently suggested to me that their read of it was, and this was not intel, this was not them saying that they knew this for sure. It was just kind of like a feel thing. But somebody who used to work at the league office, now works for one of the teams, said he suspects that what the league will do is short-term, the incremental type things that Adam was alluding to today. Maybe that's flattening the odds more. Maybe it's other restrictions on, being able to be win the lottery top, or top three in consecutive years, whatever. But that the more dramatic change, trying to divorce the draft order from team records, if there's a version of it that they like, would happen like 6 years down the line. Because what happens is you can't just upend the whole system now with all these draft picks that have already been traded, future draft picks. Those need to convey first. So what we might see, and I don't know this for a fact, but it sounds logical to me, is a two-step process here where in the near term we get incremental changes to try to disincentivize tanking more, and 6 years down the line, after all draft picks have been conveyed and everybody's got graded enough advance notice, we'll get a new system.
Well, we'll see. A lot of word salad in there. So I guess we'll see how it'll.
Mine or Adams?
No, Adams, like the quote.
Oh.
Wow, I didn't realize you were taking that as what a horrible thing
I'm just on edge today. Clearly.
Okay,
Porter called me a loser, and it's all been downhill from there.
Fair enough. I'm just laughing because what a horrible thing for a host to say to his guest and after a response to a question. A lot of words out in there. No, I was clearly talking about Adam Silver.
I'm just kidding.
Oh no, that's funny. Let's do the Tatum stuff. So Tatum comes back 288 days, which is wild to me. And look, from my vantage point, the East feels entirely wide open, and it's very reasonable to expect Boston to win it. What's reasonable to expect right away? What do you think this process looks like?
This is one of the most fascinating developments I've seen ever. There's no precedent for it. There's just absolutely no precedent for a top 5 player who was supposed to miss an entire season with one of the toughest injuries, if not the toughest injury you can come back from in basketball, coming back early with a month to play in the regular season to a team that somehow, some way without him, despite everybody thinking they were going to have a gap year, has the 4th best record in the entire NBA and is in a position to make a run to the finals. There's just zero precedent for this. If you're trying to find anything even remotely patterned like this, Michael Jordan coming out of retirement back in 95, but he wasn't coming off an Achilles. He was just coming off of a bad minor league baseball career. And, coming back to a team that Scottie Pippen was anchoring, right? And, Tatum to Jaylen Brown, vaguely, they are not those guys, but there's at least a version of that where Jaylen Brown has carried them. And now Jaylen Brown has to try to reincorporate his longtime, co-star. But their roles are now reversed because Brown has been the number one option all season and has put them in this position. And I think that's actually to Tatum's advantage. Coming back from the Achilles, you don't necessarily want to try to do everything right out of the gate. It's really a benefit to him, to Jason Tatum, that he's got Jaylen Brown to lean on, as opposed to if you were coming, if Tyrese Halliburton came back to the Pacers right now, it's all on him. Pascal Siakam's, an all-star and all that, but still, Halliburton is a unique shot creator and scorer. So coming back by yourself where you have to carry a team is a lot harder. Tatum has the benefit of Jaylen Brown having evolved into this number one option and carried them this far. The Celtics already, like I say, every analytic you could point to, every basic stat or advanced stat suggests that the Celtics are a legit contender even before Tatum. And now we get to see what happens with him being reincorporated. I do think, based on the history of Achilles injuries, he's not going to be 100% of himself on day one. He'll be 100% healthy, right? Like, they're not clearing him if he's not, absolutely solidly out of the woods in terms of not being in a position to hurt himself again, right? Like, they're not going to clear him otherwise. But he won't be, as explosive as he was on the day he went down, right? Like, that takes time to get back, and maybe he's not that till next season. But even 80 or 90% of Jason Tatum is better than most of the league, and I think can be a benefit to them. So I'm fascinated to see how it unfolds tonight.
So in the space of what happens with this conference, I mean, there have been nights where I've watched Detroit, and I still try to catch a lot of Knicks games. They have undressed the Knicks more often than not when they played this year. But look, they're young with an unproven playoff team. The Knicks are completely bipolar. They've been a little bit better as of late. Harden's done a little something with Cleveland, but we've all seen Harden in the playoffs. We usually know how that goes. It feels like it's those four, Howard. Would you agree that that's the list of the teams that can win this conference?
Yeah, it's four. And if you told me any two of those were in the conference finals, any one of those was in the finals, I'd believe you. Like, they all have a case. They all have their warts. And, I think the Pistons should be considered the favorites based on their record. Like, it's pretty basic. Like, they've earned that standing, and I think they've been the most consistent team. But like, the Celtics are really good and are getting a top 5 player back, and the Knicks have a starting 5 that is as good as any in the league. All other caveats applied, because yes, they are up and down at times and hard to read. And the Cavs have looked really great with James Harden. It's a great race. And I think we should have a decent race in the West as well. Like, the Thunder, as defending champs, are the worthy and deserving favorites. But the Spurs have smacked them around quite a bit and could beat them. And the Nuggets, if they get healthy, Aaron Gordon may be back tonight finally. The Nuggets still have a shot there. So, and I wouldn't rule out Minnesota. So I think, amazingly, there are 4 teams in the West and 4 teams in the East that you can make a case for right now, and that's good for the league.
Wanted to ask you what you're willing to say about San Antonio and what they can do this year. Because like Detroit, every time and it was nice because they played each other last night. And as you referenced, I think they're 4-1 against OKC this year, including the NBA Cup win. And more often than not, we all do the thing where it's like, okay, the playoffs are a different beast. 7-game series are hard. You haven't done it before. We haven't seen you do it before. It feels like if there's one player that can do something that's never been done before, it might be this guy. I just have never seen anything like him. Never seen anything like Wembanyama. And he was unbelievable last night. So this year, this iteration of this Spurs team, you're willing to say what?
They can go all the way.
Yeah.
I can't conclude anything else. They are so talented. They are so steady. They don't play like a young team. And look, Spence, you and I have been around this league long enough to have internalized a lot of these kind of NBA axioms that we believe in, right? Because they've held true for so long. And one of them is young teams don't win. And also, you've got to go through some trials and tribulations. You got to make the playoffs and get your butt kicked, and then come back the next year and maybe win a round, and then get your butt kicked again. And that's usually been the path, right? It happened to Michael Jordan. It happened to Shaq and Kobe. It's like, this is usually the way of things. But the Thunder kind of broke the mold last year. They were like the youngest team in a half century to win the championship. And we are in a time of immense parity. And because of that parity, I think more things are possible. You can break through in different ways than we would have thought in the past. Also with the Spurs, like, okay, they've never been in the playoffs, and in the Pistons case, they've never won a series. They just made it to the first round and lost to the Knicks last year. But I think both of them could make it because there's just because we're in this era of parity, there are no super teams. There's nobody who's so overwhelming that you don't have a puncher's chance against them. And then in the case of the Spurs in particular, Wemby's obviously their best player, and Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper are really important. But they do have De'Aaron Fox, who's been around this league for a while now and was on a playoff team in Sacramento, and He's a veteran. Harrison Barnes is a veteran. Devin Vassell is a younger veteran, albeit again one who hasn't really been in the playoffs. But like, they're not a bunch of 19 and 20-year-olds. Like, they do have some veteran know-how on that roster as well. And again, they don't. Even Dylan Harper, man. Like, you watch that guy play, he does not play like a rookie. Just really confident, but also like confidently making smart plays, right plays. Not, he's not self-indulgent. For a guy who was a really high pick, he plays a team game. Like, I'm just really super impressed by them.
If I allowed you to buy stock, and it's a little insider trading, so I'm giving you a tip, right? And you can get in early, and the IPO will let you retire and drink matcha lattes in Brooklyn while listening to a hipster band for the rest of your life. You have to buy Spurs stock or Thunder stock. Who are you buying?
Oh, man, that's tough. I'm tempted to go Spurs just because Wemby is like nothing else we've ever seen in our lives. But the Thunder have the proven track record so far. They need to get healthy. My God, Jalen Williams, the guard / forward version has been had a rough season. But between Jalen Williams, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and Chet Holmgren, you've already got your three pillars that should be together for many, many years to come. San Antonio hasn't proven it yet. I'm tempted to go with the Spurs because of Wemby, but I think I would probably go Thunder based on not just what they've already shown, but Sam Presti's still sitting on that pile of draft picks, and he's got so many different ways he can keep building this thing and replacing guys as it become too expensive, and that's an incredible formula.
Let me ask you one more question about the Knicks, because yes, they're part of the four, and maybe this is just my lifetime experience with this organization that has oftentimes almost been there, but has never ultimately been there. It kind of feels like they've hit their ceiling with this group. That's just kind of how I feel when I'm watching them. There's the Giannis stuff, obviously, of course, and Milwaukee is not going to be able, I don't think, to get into the play-in, so they might have to figure something out. How do you feel about what the Knicks are right now, and do you think there's more meat on this bone, or do they have to figure something out this offseason?
I think we're to the point where, and it's funny because this is really we're 2 years in with Cat. That's it.
Yep.
It feels like it's a lot longer, but it's a super expensive lineup, and they're very. I don't want to say they're like too top heavy, but they've got a lot of big contracts, and they've invested a lot. Whether it's the contracts or whether it's the 5 draft picks they gave up for Mikal Bridges, that I do think it's kind of a make or break moment for them already. This is not traditionally a patient franchise, as you know. I think they've been a lot better during the Leon Rose era than ever. They've kept the owner at bay, but that doesn't hold forever. And the owner was on radio a couple months ago saying it was like championship or bust, and he expected no less. So if they fall short, and depending on how far short they fall and how spectacularly they may fall if that happens, I could see them, making some drastic changes in the offseason. I'm not saying that's justified. I'm not I don't know that they've hit their ceiling, Spence. Like, maybe they have. I think this is still a possibility. This team, getting to the finals, maybe even winning the championship. But I think there's enough doubts and concerns built up that losing in the second round or losing in the conference finals again is going to cause some serious dominoes to fall. And maybe that's Giannis. Maybe it's something else. But I get the sense that unless they get to the finals, at least, we won't see the same starting 5 back.
Last thing, I'll set you loose on this, and we've been discussing this on this show, quite frankly, for a few years, not just through the NBA prism, but once gambling became accepted and widespread legal. I mean, sports books aren't legal here, but, prediction markets are. So that's essentially the same thing, just utilizing a different platform. Fred VanVleet, interesting stuff when it came to his description of whether or not he views it as a problem based off of the amount of revenue. He cited 1%. I don't know if that's real, but do you feel like this is an issue with the way the NBA seems to be in bed with these sports books and gambling companies, and oftentimes some of their decision-making might be colored through those lenses?
Yeah, no, that was a quote that Fred VanVleet gave to my friend Tanya Ganguly at the New York Times. People should go look up that story because there's some provocative stuff from Andre Iguodala in there too about the salary cap or the second apron system basically being a virtual hard cap. But VanVleet said, this was his quote, was about the gambling money, it's not substantial enough to make it worth any of this for us or for the league. That was a really strong statement from Fred VanVleet, who's president of the Players Association. I don't know, does that reflect just his view? Does it reflect the executive committee of the Players Association? Does it represent a position that the union is taking assertively? Would they go to the league and try to change the partnerships with gambling companies? Like it raises a bunch of really interesting questions that I don't think we have answers to right off the bat. I don't suspect we're going to see anything change anytime soon because the league in general is out to make every dime that it can, and it's already far down this road, and I don't know if they can extricate themselves at this point. But I think it's absolutely worth noting when the president of the Players Association says that the revenue and the part of, whatever the players are benefiting, right? Like they get, 50 cents on every dollar for the most part in this league. When he says it's not worth any of this, and by any of this, he means not only the ongoing, federal case involving Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier, but he's talking about like the threats that guys get and all the stuff that they are now exposed to because people are betting on games or betting on prop bets and then like cursing at players because they lost their bet or threatening their families. Like it's, that's, I mean, to Fred VanVleet's point, that's not worth it. But I don't know if his statement means that there's going to be any change coming.
Howard, great stuff today. Even though you were grumpy, you made it through and you gave me about 20, 25 minutes. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure, Spence. Talk to you soon.
All right, the great Howard Beck. It's an honor to have him on my show. I'm not kidding when I say Howard has been my favorite NBA writer for maybe 20 years. Longer than that, actually. So every time I have Howard on the show, it's a really cool thing. He's with The Ringer now. He was with the New York Times. He covered the Knicks. He was with Sports Illustrated for years. He and Chris Mannix actually had an awesome podcast back in the day, one of the original NBA podcasts. So, yeah, he's on The Ringer now, and he's working over there with a podcast he does with former Jazzman Raja Bell. And if you're looking for good NBA content, Howard is the guy. I read everything he writes. The latest he writes about Victor Wembanyama. He did a really good piece not too long ago about tanking, about what's going on with the NBA. So definitely check it out. I don't think he tweets much anymore. I think he's over on Blue Sky at Howard Beck, at howardbeck.bsky.social. I think you just go to Blue Sky. I don't do much on Blue Sky at all. I think you just go to Blue Sky and search Howard Beck. So appreciate his time today. All right. I want to let you know that League One Volleyball is Utah's professional volleyball team. The next home game is at the BYU Fieldhouse on March the 5th. Well, that's not true because isn't today the 6th?
March 14th.
March 14th. Is it in Provo? Is it also BYU?
No, that one's actually at Bruin Arena, Salt Lake Community College.
Okay, here's what you do.
I'll update them.
Get your tickets today. I'm just such an autopilot thing on these reads. I'm like, that can't be March 5th. So here's what you do. Go to lovbsl.com. lovbsl.com. Shout out to our friends at League One Volleyball, Utah's professional volleyball team. All right, we'll catch a break. Big 12 basketball tournament is right around the corner, but a couple of games left in the regular season. We'll do some Utah basketball. Utah football is kind of always on the mind. And some BYU basketball and spring football as well. Spencer Linton, our buddy from BYU TV, joins us coming up next on ESPN 700. Not going to lie, and you know me when I go to the gym, I go to the gym for one thing, and we're moving weight. Bottom line, we're crushing weight. We are moving weight, and that's the only goal. Your boy was a little drained this morning. This track comes on, push through the end.
Bulls on parade.
It's an awesome gym track. Spencer Linton knows what I'm talking about. Linton, when you go to the gym, you're only there to move weight as well, right?
Just stack the plates, man. Stack those plates, brother.
Yep. No, I know. I see the guns on TV. I do need to know the pre-production BYU TV meeting when the idea is raised, you guys should wear headbands on television today. Why the hell you aren't like, no, we are not doing that. What's going on, man?
This just tells you how much we love Richie Saunders.
Okay.
It's a special thing to implement that and actually go out and execute it. There's a reason that guys like Richie and AJ wear the headbands, because it makes sense for them. Not so much for me to do so on camera, but again, it was just an ode to Richie in the opening segment, because we just feel terrible for him that he can't finish out his senior day. And obviously he's meant so much to BYU basketball. So I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with that and just kind of do like a game day eve senior day celebration for him.
You know, we were talking about this the day that injury went down, the day after the game. Obviously, in a vacuum, it hurts the team, and we've seen it since. But I mean, he came back to school, and I know he made some cash coming back to BYU, but last year, watching him improve for the first time, I said, that's an NBA player. And then coming back this year to build on that, I don't know if he could have been a first rounder, but he could have been right on the cusp. Like, this isn't just a bad thing for BYU basketball. You're just devastated for a kid who I think is Kevin Young's best proof of concept with his ability to improve players, quite frankly.
No doubt about it. And that was largely discussed when Richie was making a very difficult decision about whether or not to build on his stock from late last season and get into the NBA as a mid to late second rounder, or to come back and try and better that stock. And he and Kevin Young talked at length about, okay, what can I do to help you? Because I do have the NBA experience. I know what it takes to be an NBA scorer. I have some good comps for you. I can put you in contact with the right people. And so, I mean, it was a fantastic recruiting job by Kevin Young, and Richie just said, I felt like I could benefit from it. And to your point, I thought it really worked out. I thought Richie got better coming off ball screens with more attention being paid to him, and he wanted to work on getting his shot off with his own dribble and just being able to take and make tougher shots and feel more confident in doing so, and his footwork and his ability to work off and around ball screens, especially around the three-point line. I mean, they worked endlessly on those things to help Richie. And we saw at times magical moments when he was at Kansas. Even though BYU lost that game, he goes on a heater. And then even though BYU lost, BYU is now like it's the Richie Saunders show. It's not just AJ, it's Richie too. And he's an NBA guy too. And maybe he just pushed his stock up into early second round, or gulp even late first round. Could he climb that high? And that was the top end. But I thought it was so fun to watch his ascension, and I thought Kevin Young absolutely did some really great things with him to get him going. Even though he didn't shoot the three at as high of a clip as he did last year, there's obviously more attention being paid to him and tougher defenses, and he's still going out and doing his thing as part of BYU's big three. So I was very confident that he was going to be, at worst, an early second-round NBA draft pick, and now you just get a lump in your throat when you're thinking about what could have been and how will this impact his professional draft stock, and who's going to take a chance on him, and will he fully recover? If anybody can recover, I believe it's Richie Saunders. Like, he is that dude. With the proper mentality and the work ethic, I believe he will still play in the NBA, but everything is clearly going to be different and much harder, and it just the timing of it stinks. There's no way around it, but any team that takes a chance on him, I think he's absolutely a diamond in the rough. And why can't he be a guy like, Alex Caruso? Or, I mean, just to go out and just do the dirty work and hit tough shots and get the rebound when you absolutely need it. He just brought so much hustle and he really is the heart and soul of this BYU team. So it'll be good to have him back on the bench tomorrow for a morale lift for this current team. But wow, did they miss his presence on the floor as well.
Yeah, let's move over there. So the way I've been, so Spencer, you should know that I've been to Provo to watch BYU basketball play on 2 separate occasions. Your boy is making the drive down south, okay, to watch this team. And then I'm not going to say I've watched every minute of every game, but I've been pretty locked into BYU basketball this year. So 1 in 4 since Richie went down. And the way I articulated was AJ is obviously the best player. He might be the best player in America. Rob, in a lot of ways, makes the team go. Richie clearly was the leader, upperclassman. So losing him is a big piece of this. But what else have you seen that has led to this 1 in 4 slide and 4 and 9 over the past 13? What has gone wrong, Spencer?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Big 12 teams have figured out BYU's defensive deficiency, and the number one there is the Cougars' inability to defend the three-point line at any high rate consistently this season. They have the worst three-point field goal percentage defense in the Big 12, and conference competition has absolutely taken full advantage of that, making the extra pass, getting BYU deep into their rotations defensively, getting them spread out, and it's just creating a lot of open looks. And the concepts that BYU has implemented with the peel switch, with Will Voigt and Tim Fanning having their NBA backdrop, it was working at times when you did have your primary players on the floor, but now that they've had to go to different lineups and you're seeing some guys that are further down the rotation in there have just been more and more breakdowns. And, man, momentum works both ways. When it's positive, it is fabulous. When it is negative, you feel like nothing can go right for you. And for BYU, they just have had such a hard time defending the three-point line. And then at times, because they're frustrated, it just feels like the energy and effort dips. And it's hard to watch guys just play at 75% or 60% because they're throwing up their arms like, well, they're making every shot anyway, so what difference does it make? You got to overcome that. And that's where not having Richie Saunders on the floor is an absolute killer, because they looked at him and they just felt better when he was on the floor, and he was such an example of how he went and did things, and he had the right to call guys out, and he did. Keba talked about Richie when he came back after his ACL injury before the Iowa State game. Keba said, Richie called me out. We're boys. We go way back to being teammates at Wasatch, and he said some hard things to me, and I looked at him and I thought, man, there's a guy that would kill to be back out on the floor and to still be playing. And here I am. I still get to play. Why am I not playing harder? Why am I not doing this? That's why he wrote number 15 on his headband for Richie that night. And he played one of his best games of the season. So it's just, how do they find the consistent effort and energy without their emotional leader in that regard on the floor? Because that translates to everything. And certainly, with how bad the three-point defense has been and teams taking advantage of that, it would only help if you just try and play consistent 40 minutes with full effort and energy. Chris Burgess reiterated that to me this morning again and again. Like, our biggest issue over this current 5-game skid outside of the Iowa State win is just not having consistent, proper effort and energy. And we have to learn how to not get impacted and not be derailed and be mentally weak. But this is a team that has a bunch of young guys and not a ton of core BYU guys, like guys that have been there forever, like Richie. When you think about it, Spence, we talk about BYU and how many players they typically have that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They're over the past, I want to say, gosh, since Richie has gone out in the Colorado game, not 1 minute of BYU basketball has been played by a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like, it's crazy that that's what it's evolved into, but I still feel like BYU needs some of those core guys there with their veteran presence and leadership and just maturity in the locker room to help these young guys that are coming from different places in the NIL era to help out. That said, I will give major props to AJ DiBonsa, dude. He is totally bought in to Kevin Young, to the program, to the honor code, to the school, to his religion classes. That dude is the product of good parenting. Shout out to Ace and Chelsea. They've done an amazing job with him. He is bought in, even though he is a minority in two ways, an African-American athlete and not a member of the church. Like, that guy's bought in, but BYU needs more guys that care about the three letters on the front than they do about the names on the back of the jersey.
My personal take is if you have not set up metal folding chairs and if you don't have a carpet burn from diving on a carpeted gym, you cannot be on this roster. That's what I say.
BYU should shoot the three well every time. How many church gyms are available?
Seriously.
For these guys to go out and practice.
Hey, let me follow up with a couple things. And let me start here. First of all, AJ is so good that you want the ball in his hands. Okay, I understand that.
Yes.
To your point about their defense, it is putting tremendous pressure on their offense because you're not getting stops. And so therefore you have to be almost perfect offensively, which means you can't turn the ball over. And they turn the ball over a ton against Cincinnati. If you have 15 turnovers and 8 assists, you're not winning basketball games. One of the things I loved about the team last year is the ball moved, the ball popped, they shared the basketball. They were fun to watch on offense. And again, AJ's so good that if you're his coach, you want to go through him. Is it a little bit too isolation heavy with AJ and Rob? And now that Richie's gone, like if AJ and Rob don't make the play, it doesn't feel like the play is made. But again, who else is going to do it? It just feels like it's a different offensive attack than it was a year ago.
Yes, and it's even different a little bit from not having Richie on the floor from having Richie on the floor to now not having Richie on the floor because the ball feels even stickier. And it is a great play when you can put it in the prospective number one NBA draft pick's hands and have him just go to work and score 30 a night. But Rob Wright III is not a pass-first point guard by any means. He is a ball-dominant guard, and Kevin Young has said to him, hey, if you want to have a professional career, you've got to learn how to meld those two. You got to become more unselfish. You got to become a guy that at times is absolutely pass first. And that's why he had Rob working off the ball and AJ being the point guard of sorts or point forward and having him distribute because Rob's just better off the ball scoring. I mean, they've tried anything and everything you can possibly think of, but it is certainly stickier. The thing that's probably most frustrating for the staff right now is when the ball does move and guys are open to take shots that are not named A.J. DiBonsa and Rob Wright III, they're hesitating. Even A.J. at times is hesitating. There were a couple of times against Cincinnati, he had an open corner three, and he passed on it because it was somewhat early in the shot clock. And Kevin Young got after him and said, dude, you're not going to get a better shot than that. Like, you hold on to it, you get it back, and now you're firing up a long contested 2 with 2 seconds on the shot clock. Like, your odds are not great. Like, take the open shot. And he's trying to get guys like Alexei Kostic and Mihailo Boskovic to be ready to shoot, even Kennard Davis. Like, be ready to shoot when you get it and don't hesitate. It doesn't have to be AJ or Rob taking the shot with under 12 seconds left on the shot clock. If you move it and you have an open shot, be ready and willing to take it. And that's a lack of confidence. That is a lack of identity to a degree, just not knowing if it's okay to take the shot or not. And so the coaches are working through some of that stuff as well. But yeah, absolutely. You're right. It is isolation heavy, and it needs to be probably that primarily. But BYU is doing themselves no favors by turning the ball over late in the shot clock and passing up good shots, hoping that if I miss it, I'll disappoint coach. So I'm hoping that I can pass it back to AJ, and then we'll just do that. It's kind of gotten into that realm at times, and so they want him to play free. I keep hearing that phrase, like, at least the guys play free, play with energy. You have to play free. We'll see if they can do it tomorrow night against Texas Tech. Without question, playing in front of a Marriott Center home crowd with Richie back on the bench, honoring the seniors, and knowing that this is like BYU's last hurrah to try and spark something before they go to the postseason. They will play better tomorrow, but will it be enough against a Texas Tech team that's looked really good after they lost their own star in JT Toppin?
It's a really wild thing to consider how BYU, and I've heard Coach Young, Kevin Young, talk about this. I mean, they beat Iowa State without Richie. Iowa State, on paper, they're one of 4 or 5 teams in the conference that could absolutely go to the Final Four. They've thrown punches with some of the best teams in the country. But I want you to take me into the building. So I was running home from work. I was a little late, had to pick up some food, and I turned on the UCF game, and I was like, what? Like, I mean, I honestly thought that the scores were reversed. I think by the time I turned it on, they were down 20 or something in the first half. What was the building like that night? What was it like to be there for that game that was just unbelievably surprising?
It was an unmitigated disaster, first and foremost, but I've never heard a Marriott Center crowd boo their own team. I've heard BYU football get the boo birds at times. I've heard BYU booed in neutral sites when they played bad, and there have been grumblings among BYU fans. I have never heard a home crowd boo their own team in that building until the UCF game at halftime when they were down by 24. It was fascinating and terrible all at the same time, because you don't want those guys to play so poorly that it gets to that juncture. But yeah, they've invested a lot into this BYU basketball team, the boosters, the fans. They've been excited. And so to see that type of effort just 3 days after BYU played their best game of the season against Iowa State and did so without Richie Saunders, it was just such a widespread juxtaposition that it was mind-boggling how BYU just didn't show up. There are big win hangovers, and then there is, again, a big win unmitigated disaster. And that's what it was. They couldn't get out of their own way. And it didn't help that UCF made 11 of their first 16 three-pointers. Like, that was a shooting display that took me right back to the PTSD of what Alabama did to BYU in the Sweet 16 last year. I just thought, I've seen this before. This is insane. But BYU's defense at least tried harder against Alabama last year. It just didn't feel like they could do anything right. And then something broke. Like, the confidence switch got flipped off, and they've been trying to rediscover it ever since. Like, it was so embarrassing that I think it honestly rattled and shook them to the core of, oh my gosh, like, what do we do? Like, are we not good anymore? And that's why tomorrow's game is so critical. They have to spark something tomorrow and rediscover what they know they can do against a team like Iowa State. Maybe it is that little number 10 national rank in front of Texas Tech's name that will make BYU feel like, okay, ranked team, home crowd, senior night. We've done this before against Iowa State. Let's go. So really interested to see what happens tomorrow. But that confidence switch has been just straight up turned off since that UCF disaster.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about March, and we've seen it, you've seen it with one James Taft Fredette, better known as Jimmer, Randolph Childress, Wake Forest. The beautiful thing about March is one transcendent talent that gets going can change everything, and that's who AJ is. Now, you can't do it alone. Basketball is a team game. But before I get a quick football thought from you, what do you feel like is left in the tank? Like, what's a real – they're going to make the tournament. I mean, even if they lose tomorrow and lose in the first round of the Big 12, they're going to make the tournament. Yeah. Now, in that scenario, they might be a 9 or a 10, but they're going to make it. What are you willing to say that you believe this team still has left in it?
Well, I just saw the odds from Vegas that BYU is a 2.5-point favorite against Texas Tech tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which – it's like, huh? Okay. But they know what the Marriott Center means. They know that BYU did what they did to Iowa State and that they're trying to rally, and they still have A.J. DeBonsa. If, and I know it's still a big if, BYU can manufacture a win tomorrow against Texas Tech and then go and win your first-round game with some momentum because you beat Texas Tech, whether it's against Kansas State or Utah in the first round of the Big 12. Now you've won a couple of games. You're trying to pull yourself out of a hole and understandably feeling better. So even if they got run in the second round of the Big 12 tournament by a TCU or a Cincinnati or UCF or whoever, it would feel different because you finally, like, you fought back. You punched back a little bit. I think this team is absolutely capable of holding serve on what the odds makers are saying and winning this game. People are going to be like, you're crazy. They have shown nothing to give me any indication they can win the game tomorrow night. But I'm telling you, Marriott Center Magic, crazy rally, and playing for Richie and having him back, like the emotional lift he gives them when he's just even around, it is palpable. So I think they can do that. I think they can and should win their first round game at the Big 12 tournament. And that should probably secure BYU at worst a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. And then if you're a 7 and you're BYU and you've just gone through the Big 12 gauntlet and you get somebody like SMU on the 10 seed line or a Texas A&M, BYU is more than capable of winning that first round game. So I do think this team still has, in one way or another, 3 wins in them. However you want to get there and those opportunities for games, I still think they have 3 wins in them total. And then the second round of the NCAA tournament, it's just a toss-up at that point because the depth is tough, and it's all about matchups. You know it as well as I do, Spence. It's all about matchups in that tournament. It just depends on who BYU draws in the bracket and how tough that second game is. But I do think there is still something left in the tank, and they're excited to go out and prove it. At worst, they're going to be a 10 seed if they can't win another game. They'll still be in the bracket in a 10 seed.
All right, we'll end on this before I set you loose. It's never a bad time to talk football. BYU has begun spring football. Utah will begin on the 17th. As we talked about last time, and there's actually an update, ESPN ranked the top, what they called newcomer classes in football. That includes transfers and recruits. Texas Tech is 3. The schedule for Texas Tech is a joke. So it feels like it will be their league to lose once again. The way I'll ask you this question before I say you lose, BYU puts them in a spot. BYU puts themselves, I should say, in a spot to compete for the Big 12 championship next year if what?
Gosh, if the defense can maintain at least 85% of what they were doing under Jay Hill. I think that there's so much energy and opportunity created by BYU's defense to keep them in games. There will be a natural step forward in maturity and understanding from Bear Bachmeier, but I think they'll take a step forward offensively. It just depends on how big the step back on defense is under Kelly Papinga. Like, can they maintain at least the majority of the integrity of that defense? And can Cade Uluwave, the transfer from Cal, who's a good player, step in and take over for a guy like Jack Kelly's production? BYU's linebacker should get help with Isaiah Glasker getting healthier and having his own surgery, and they bring back the majority of their best players on that side of the ball. So that, to me, I feel like will keep BYU in most games. And if the defense can keep them close, I do expect BYU's offense, with a heavy dose of Bear Bachmeier and LJ Martin and the tight ends, to be hard-nosed and be disciplined and have great ball security. And they'll be in a lot of games. And I like BYU's chances in close games to close things out if your defense is doing what you do and your offense is able to run the ball with Bear and LJ.
Good stuff, buddy. I appreciate the time on a Friday. We'll see how everything unfolds. March is a great time for hoops, so we'll set you loose. Have a good weekend. Thanks, man.
You got it, brother. Always good to talk to you.
All right, Spencer Litton, BYU TV. BYU has one more Big 12 game, senior night for them, coming up tomorrow night against Texas Tech, and somehow they're a favorite. BYU's favored by 2.5. Texas Tech is without JT Toppin. Of course, BYU is without Richie Saunders. The Utes will hit the road for their final game of the season at Baylor tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Our pregame coverage begins a little skosh earlier than that. I think I believe Utah's locked in the last place seed in the tournament. I think they'll be the 15th seed. There's a chance, if I'm understanding this correctly, so West Virginia and UCF play tonight. It's the only Big 12 game tonight. If West Virginia wins, BYU will be the 10 seed, and they're going to play K-State. If UCF wins, BYU would move up to the 9 seed if they beat Texas Tech tomorrow. And in that case, BYU would play Utah, who is the 16th seed in the tournament. All right, before we catch a break, I want to tell you about a new client on the station and the show that I'm really excited about because I've worked with them for 2 years now. Game Day Men's Health, all right? So here's the deal. It's now March. Did you set a New Year's resolution to maybe get back in shape, lose some weight? How's that going for you? If it's a struggle, I'm telling you, these guys can help you because they helped me do the very same thing. So 2 years ago, I did the thing, set the goal. I'm going to get back in shape. I'm going to get in the best shape I've ever been in as an adult. Have you ever had that thought? Have you ever had that goal? But finally, I'm going to do it, right? Cleaned up some habits, started eating clean, hit the gym, doing yoga, doing the things. And after a couple months, I'm like, well, this isn't working because I'm no longer 22, okay? It's harder to do it when you get a little bit older. So I had a friend recommend Game Day Men's Health, and he asked if I'd ever supplemented testosterone before, which I had not. So I went into Game Day Men's Health, and here's the thing. They're giving you the very same deal they give me, which is this. Number one, a free consultation. Okay. Totally free, no obligation. They don't charge you. The consultation is a little bit of blood work. It takes about 15, 20 minutes. They go over your levels with you and they tell you where you're doing all right. Then they tell you where you might be a little bit low and walk you through the process of how they can help you get your levels up. Now, for me, that was supplementing testosterone and also utilizing their peptides. They have semaglutide, tirzepatide, the weight loss stuff you've heard about. Everybody's using it. And if you need that, this is the best way to get it as well because it's the cheapest way to get it. So after the free consultation, they walk you through what they can do for you. But the kicker is this. If you mention you heard me talking about it on the show, you get 50% off your membership all year long. It's March, so you got 9 months left on this deal, 50% off, okay? It will help, I can promise you, because 2 years later, I still am in the best shape I've been in as an adult. I've kept the weight off. And I continue to go in for blood work every 2-3 months. This is a program, okay? It's not a one-time thing. So go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. It's GameDayMen'sHealth.com. They've got locations in Lehigh, Pleasant Grove, Cottonwood Heights, and South Ogden. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Schedule that free consultation. Tell them you heard me talking about it. Boom, 50% off your first year. All right, 2 hours down, 2 hours to go. The PGA Tour is at Arnie's tournament, and the Players is coming up, I believe, in like a week and a half. We'll do a little golf during the 4 o'clock hour of the show. We'll get back to some college and pro basketball storylines in the 5, and we will say goodnight at 6 on this Friday Drive. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. All right, 5 o'clock hour of the show tonight. Howard Beck will stop by to talk some pro basketball. The Jazz are off tonight. They take on Milwaukee tomorrow. Jason Tatum is making his season debut 288 days after he tore his Achilles. He is back playing basketball, which is just wild. But the PGA Tour is at Arnie's tournament that I attended last year, my first and only PGA Tour experience down in Orlando at the Bay Hill Club and Lodge. We're going to do a little golf. My friend Paul Pugmire is live in studio. Paul, how are you, sir?
So good, Spence. So good to be with you. Thank you.
And my new best friend, whether he knows it or not, because I got new golf clubs on the way, Jordan Bloxham from T-Box up in Centerville. What's up, man? How are you?
Doing good. Healing a little bit.
Okay.
As the listeners can tell, it's been a rough week and a half, but yeah, got you dialed in with the clubs, and now you're gonna have no excuses. I heard you were talking to somebody yesterday on the show, and I guess now you have no excuses. But
no, it was Smitty who said, now that I have new clubs, I have no excuse, to which I said, I have a partially torn rotator cuff.
Blah, blah, blah,
I'll
blah.
always find something to explain why I'm not currently playing on tour. There's no doubt about this.
Yeah.
All right, Paul, I want to talk about the process. I want to bring our listeners into kind of what it's like, and also get some listeners up there to get fitted and get clubs. So we'll do that in a moment. But let's talk about this tournament. Daniel Berger might run away with it. He's got a 5-stroke lead, but we're only through 2. This is a really beautiful golf course.
It's spectacular.
Tell us about
it. Bay Hill, Arnie's tournament on Arnie's course. It existed. Arnie didn't build it, but he bought it, good land, probably 40 years ago, long time ago. And he has put his touch on renovations and improvements over the years while he was still with us. But this is Arnold's home course in his adulthood. He grew up in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, where his father was a combination of both the head pro and the superintendent at the Latrobe Country Club. But Arnie picked to settle in Bay Hill, and that's where he had his life based out of, and it was his home course and his home. And the marks, the Arnold Palmer marks on that entire facility just are never ending. And it is so cool that you got to be there, Spencer. If there's one place you're going to do it, may as well be Arnie's course, right?
Yeah.
Well, one of two anyway.
One of two.
Yeah, places to go watch a golf tournament.
Oh, I see. Well, there's Augusta.
Okay.
but
I was assuming that was it.
But,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Are you going to be able to do that? Maybe not. However, we've got some cool Utah Augusta connections that we're going to talk about on my show tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Yeah. My brother married into a Southern family that somehow gets access. So he's been like 3 or 4 times. And he sends me a mug, which is nice, and a towel, which I actually have on my bag. You may have seen that when I came in. But I would very much like to go to the Master. Jordan,
it's a special place. Yeah, I've been.
Well, tell me about it.
Monday and Tuesday, the course is just, I mean, it's as good, if not better, than what you see on TV.
Okay.
The biggest thing that when you go there is the elevation change is unreal.
You cannot imagine. TV flattens that course. You cannot imagine how much elevation change there is. And the best way to say it, especially sitting here in Salt Lake City, Utah, is the number 10 fairway and the number 13 fairway. I would ski those. They are there's that much slope on both those fairways, and there's a lot of elevation change throughout the entire golf course. The caddies will tell you it's the hardest walk on tour. Absolutely. And 18, walking up 18. TV does not show
not
this.
even close.
It doesn't show how narrow the chute is coming off the tee. Getting that tee ball into play is a thing. But then the walk up 18, you cannot begin to see the 18th green from the fairway. You only see the top third of the flag. And it doesn't capture it on TV.
What was your experience?
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
When Monday and Tuesday and it rained a lot the 2 days that I was there. That course drains, like crazy. It's amazing, and that's something that a golfer, like, you don't appreciate it until you see like thousands of gallons of water hit on a course, and then you go there the next day and you're like,
where'd it go?
Where the heck did all the water go?
Interesting.
So at Augusta, since Jordan's talking about this, they pioneered a system.
They do have a special system for it.
But.
For greens that had a tendency to collect water, that is a vacuum system from under the green that sucks water down through the root system, through the structure of the soils that they have there, and pumps the water out from under the green rather than squeegeeing the top. They suck it down through the bottom, and then they also use that same system to heat and cool the roots to keep the optimum temperature throughout the year.
Is it exclusive to Augusta?
It was developed at Augusta. It's now in a lot of places.
Yeah, it's a lot of places now.
That's fascinating.
It is great, yeah.
So,
I want to build on something that Jordan is saying. For folks who are listening, he's talking about Monday and Tuesday. Yes, it is appealing and sexy to be there during the tournament, especially on the weekend, but the reality is it is so packed, it's hard to get to the place to see what you want to see. Monday and Tuesday, however, is the opposite. You can get to it. You can see the course. You can see the players. You can move around. And on Monday and Tuesday, they'll let you carry a camera, not a cell phone, but a camera, and you can take pictures. Once the tournament starts, all that goes away, and TV is such a good experience. I highly recommend going on practice days.
Do they take your cell phone? Are you not allowed to have your phone like on the premise?
Correct.
But you can carry like an old school camera.
Correct.
Or like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They have phone booths.
Okay.
If you need to use
Remember those?
use a phone.
Wow.
They have a phone booth.
I saw one in an old movie recently.
But my guess is there's people that take phones out there. But yeah, it's for me. I mean, obviously, the reverence to that place. I'm not going to take my phone out there.
Sure.
But when you're out there, I'm like, I don't want to be. I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah. So. Have you played it?
No.
Because you played it.
I played it. Yeah.
Okay.
So a remarkable stroke of luck. Every year at the Masters, there's 2,000-3,000 media people there. They do a lottery and they pick 24 players, 24 people in the lottery, 6 foursomes to play on Monday, and I hit the lottery one year.
Oh, okay.
And so I played the Monday following the Masters. It was the year John Rahm won, and they do a remarkable thing. They leave the pins alone. So we played Sunday pins, and it was an amazing experience. It was a lifetime experience. It is hard to describe. It's even hard to understand having been there, but I will tell you this. First of all, we just talked about You cannot begin to comprehend Augusta National from TV until you get there. I will tell you it is different still from the middle of the fairway than it is from walking off to the side. It is a different experience walking up the fairway.
Acting like you hit the middle of the fairway.
I did on occasion, but I walked in the middle of the fairway.
How did you play, by the way?
Well, I did a podcast where I recounted hole by hole, and in real time I recorded my thoughts shot by shot, hole by hole. So it's on the Utah Golf Radio podcast. I shot 83.
All right.
Good. Yeah, it was great.
Respectable.
Respectable. A couple things that I am proud of. Number one, no double bogeys. I'm very happy about that. Mm-hmm. Number two, no 3 putts, and there's story behind a couple of those, but no 3 putts, and then it was just an absolutely great experience. Plus, I made 2 birdies. That was a lot of fun. But there was also an unmistakable lesson from playing Augusta National, and that is that a good shot is not good enough. Augusta National will reject and mock a good shot. It is only accepting of a great shot, and that is on every hole, every shot. Only a great shot is good enough at Augusta National.
We got to get you on. We got to get you on there to play, Jordan.
I know. I have putted on their greens.
Okay.
How'd you do that?
So when I went as a guest of Ping, Ping rep.
Yeah.
And Beckerman's place.
Okay. Yeah.
They have replica greens of 3 of the greens, and then one that combines a green, so you can go putt, and then they have a 3-hole putting course that is on a couple of them. So I have putted on Augusta's greens, not played the course.
So for our listeners, Jordan is a pro. All right. So of the 3 of us, Jordan's the pro.
Yes.
Okay. We just talking to microphones. What is the main difference? Because as Paul referenced and I referenced, last year I had a chance to go to Bay Hill, and I was an honorary observer.
Yeah.
They put us with Sam Stevens and Nick Taylor. And so that's the first time I've ever watched a professional golfer play up close like that. What stood out to me most, as I've told Paul, is their problem solving, because they don't hit every fairway, right? Like you just think like, oh, they're pros and they're going to, and Nick hit a couple of atrocious shots, but found his way out of trouble and was really impressive to watch. As you have golfed at very high levels. What stands out most to you about like the elite of the elite? What do they do different?
Well, they, like I said, they avoid the big number is a big thing. They're obviously all really good ball strikers. They know what they do. They know what their ball does, which then makes that decision-making process a lot easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you know what your ball is going to do, right, for the majority of the time, you have a better frame of reference of what shot you can play.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiger was one of the best at it. Like, he hit some of the most amazing shots, but he knew what his ball was going to do, and he did not hit a shot that he wasn't like 85% certain that he was going to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of shots that most amateurs play that they shouldn't play, right? Because for one, they're probably only 20% certain they're going to pull it off, and it's right, and it's only going to lead to trouble once they get it into that spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a lot of it is right. They know what their ball does. They control, right? They control their ball really well with spin and all that, but they don't. They take out a lot of the big numbers.
I feel like you're low-key insulting me for insisting on getting a 4-iron. Hitting shots that amateurs should not be hitting. Yep, see, I knew it. I could tell.
Jordan, I want to hear what
I
you
could tell.
say.
No, we were going through, and he asked me, he said, how do you hit your 4-iron? I'm like, incredibly inconsistent. Now, when I hit it, I love it because it's my favorite, because it's such a shock. So instead of getting another hybrid, I just elected to get a 4-iron. I'm going to be stubborn. He won't brag about his game. I want you tell me what kind of player Jordan is.
Jordan
Paul.
is a good player. He's a very good player. He's been a stalwart in the Utah Section PGA for a long time. In particular, Jordan is a fantastic wedge player.
Mm-hmm.
I have had the good pleasure. Jordan's a friend. I've had the pleasure of playing with him a lot, and I've seen this repeatedly. You can go around 18 holes, and when he's got a wedge in his hand, if that's the shot the course gives him, he's going to put it in position and give himself a look. He's a terrific wedge player.
Very nice, very nice. All right, before we catch a break, Paul, I always like to get this from you. Now that, let's see, everyone's off the course. Yeah. So 2 rounds in the books down at Bay Hill, Arnold Palmer Invitational, presented by MasterCard. Let's get the sponsor in there. Berger's at 13 under. I think Akshay must have birdied 18. He's at 8 under. He's second, but 5 back. Then Sahith Theegala, Ludwig Oberg, Colin Morikawa. What a leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Fowler, Russell Henley, and Xander. Rory made a charge today. I'll just ask you, how many guys on this board do you think still have a shot to win the tournament?
The 2 things we look at each week, we want to, after 36 holes, we want to go 5 shots back and then temper it with how many people are left in between. Mm-hmm. And so with a 5-shot lead, holy cow, that is unusual. Obviously, you want to go farther than 5 shots back because that would only get Batia in second place. So let's go down and capture those at T7, who are currently at -5. Now, that would require Berger to stumble, which he might, and which Bay Hill can make.
That's
you
what I was
going to
say. I would actually go
Yes.
back to, just because what Bay Hill and the risk reward.
Yeah,
I would go down to the T15 at 3 under.
well, that's okay. That's a bit
Because I think you can make some birdies in there.
Yeah. Well,
But
are you trying to grab Scheffler? Because he's at T13, which is a good grab.
Okay.
Wait, where is Scott?
Oh, he just moved. They just updated. He went down to T15.
He's at T15 at 3 under though.
Yeah, 3
Scotty's
under.
at 3 under, yeah.
3
So-
under. But yes, that does grab him. But I mean, so you've got a guy like Scheffler that can, right? Obviously, put it together. On the weekend.
So
which he's been
so
prone
you
to do
make a
last
good
little bit.
you make a good point, Jordan. Though it's Bay Hill. This
Bay Hill.
This
There's
is
a lot
a
of water.
player's golf course.
Water and wind.
Wind
when
as
we were
well,
walking
yeah.
the course, it was so windy.
Yeah, but this is a player's golf course. And so there's a couple things. First of all, just a moment ago, Spencer, you were talking about, well, look at that leaderboard. Look at all these names on the leaderboard. Yeah, exactly. No accident. It's a Bay Hill.
Right.
It requires the cream to rise. Another measure on Bay Hill is that Tiger Woods had a great career on Bay Hill alone.
Yes.
He won 8 times there. And
wow.
Think about that.
This tournament?
This tournament. Huh. Think about that. Think about how many people where they put together a career and they go, an 8-time tour winner. We go, wow, that's a great career. Had a really strong career. Yes, and we're right. Tiger did it at Bay Hill alone. But here's the point. What kind of player did Bay Hill make rise those 8 times?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Pretty good player, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll catch a quick break. That's your PGA Tour leaderboard brought to you by Worldwide Golf. The new custom fit for the new Callaway Quantum driver. New Callaway Quantum driver features Tri-Force technology, and the result is a faster face, more ball speed, and a quantum leap in distance off the tee. uintogolf.com. That's your PGA Tour update. More with Paul Pugmire and Jordan Bloxham live in studio. If you've ever been curious about the process that will land you some beautiful new golf clubs, stay tuned. We're going to get into that next right here on ESPN 700. I'm not giving you a hello, friends. I know you want me to.
Come on.
I'm not giving you my best Jim Nantz impersonation. Although this music never gets old. It also signals like spring is on the way. One of the reasons I've always loved March is that you get the NCAA tournament, and then you start seeing the ads for the Masters. So you hear the music, and you're like, okay, spring is here. Paul Pugmire, Jordan Bloxham live in studio. Jordan, have you been to, let's see, the Players' Championship, TPC Sawgrass? Have you been to this tournament?
No.
What's the bucket list? If I gave you 3 bucket list items, what are the courses you want to go to?
That I want to go to, obviously, it depends. Go to or play.
Let's say play.
Play.
Yeah.
I want to play Augusta.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of with that. I want to play St. Andrews just because it's St. Andrews.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, oh man, the third one I don't know. There's so many good ones. It's hard to.
Have you played Pebble?
I have not played Pebble, but if I did, I don't know that I would. And this is it's a little blasphemous, but I've just heard there's some really good golf courses that are in very close proximity.
Oh, there are
better.
Yeah.
No, really? Do you even have a bucket list left? I feel like you've played everywhere.
I've
there's
been
a
so
lot.
lucky, but yes, there's a lot. There's an absolute lot.
Courses.
I really want to play Royal Melbourne. Everything about that course just looks unendingly interesting, but I haven't been.
Are you going to play President's Cup routing, or are you going to play normal routing?
I would want President's Cup routing, right? They wouldn't give it to me, but still, no. I loved Pebble. And I've had the good fortune of playing several of the Peninsula courses there, but except for Cyprus, which good land. I want to play Cyprus, right? But I loved Pebble. I thought it was fantastic, and for several reasons. One thing about Pebble is that it gets a totally different personality at different times of the year. So the women are going to play the U.S. Open, the U.S. Women's Open at Pebble this summer. Can't wait to see Pebble in the summer under tournament conditions. And there's backroom talk of the tour, as they redo the schedule, going to Pebble in the summer. I really hope they do. I really hope we get to see it fast and firm. Seeing it soft and soggy in February, it's still Pebble Beach. I want to see it fast and firm.
Let me bring something on air that we were talking about during the break, because we always like to track our local golfers. And as I was looking at the leaderboard of the Arnold Palmer Invitational down at Bay Hill, I was scrolling looking for Tony Finau.
Yeah.
Tell me why I did not see his name.
Tony is just outside of the privileged class on the PGA Tour. He was first alternate for this tournament, which is a funky thing to say for Tony Finau, for crying out loud. But he was, and he didn't get into the tournament. He is playing his way back into the privileged class, top 50. And he, we've talked about this on our show on Saturday morning on Utah Golf Radio several times, but let me mention it briefly here. Tony was hurt last year. He had foot surgery. And when I last saw him at an event in Riverside about 3 months ago, he was visibly limping. He was in great spirits. He was very upbeat, but you could tell his body wasn't right. And when your body's not right, you cannot get over the hump on the narrow margins of playing the best golf in the world. And I don't think he is quite there yet.
Do you think there's a thought to just kind of shut it down for a bit, just to get its health? Because I think it was Brooks who talked about this after one of his major wins a couple of years ago. He had 2 or 3 years where he was kind of irrelevant.
I think his was a wrist, wasn't it?
It was more than a wrist. He had wrist issues. He had knee issues. He was banged up.
But
you're right.
But after the win, he was asked, like, what's been going on? He's like, I haven't been healthy in 2 years. And we were talking about that during the break, how, and you're a pro, Jordan, like, if you're not right, if you're not healthy, it's hard to compete. It's hard to play this game.
It's hard, and it's one of the things that we do to T-Box, right? One of the things that we want to address with every one of our members is keeping the body right.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a big component.
It's an important part of that process. So before we get over to this conversation about what I have just gone through, and I'm very excited like a kid in Christmas, what do you think Tony needs some time off?
No, I think he needs reps at this point.
Need reps.
Yeah,
okay.
he's doing the right thing. And here's what Tony has done so far this year. He has played his way back into relevance. He's played his way back into being on the edge of the top 50, which is pretty dang good. But he has not he has not built his golf self up to be consistent. He's thrown down some really good rounds. He's had a couple of solid tournaments. He's missed a couple of cuts. He's been just kind of all over the board. But he is working his way back into the consistency that is required to play in the top 50. I think he'll get there. I think he'll get there sooner than later. I think he'll make noise and compete this year.
Good.
But he's working his way back right now.
Real quick, golf is hard, just to quote Rory, right? And everybody who's ever tried it. We read the top of the leaderboard. The following players did not make the cut: Shane Lowry, Jason Day, Sam Burns, Patrick Cantlay, Keegan Bradley, Justin Rose. Justin Thomas just barely came back. Those are 6 of like the top 20 golfers in the world. They're not playing the weekends.
Yeah, and Rose won by 7 at Torrey Pines this year, another great golf course. But I want to give props to Shane Lowry for just showing up.
I was like, is this a hangover?
That's right.
He showed up after absolutely imploding last week at the Cognizant, and so we know what happened there. He went from 3 up on 16 at the beginning of 16 to 2 down on after 17, and he lost the tournament. He showed up. He was a big boy. He was a grown man in the media center following the tournament, and then he showed up the next week. Mad props to Shane Lowry.
Mad props, but I'm gonna puff my chest out as the proud American, and because he kills us in the Ryder Cup, I'm anti Shane Lowry. All right, let's move over. Let's move over into this fun space here. So, for our listeners, Jordan Bloxham is with us live in studio. Paul Pugmire, of course, is as well. You can hear Paul. He hosts our golf show every Saturday. And, I continue to be very fascinated just learning about this game that I never played really as a kid outside of once or twice a year with my grandpa. And I always thought it was boring, right? And I always thought golf, like tech dudes that were into like equipment were total goobs and total nerds. Like, stop talking about the shaft and hit the ball. Nobody gives a rip. And now I'm realizing just how important this entire process is if you care about trying to improve and just having a better experience. I am not one, Jordan, to just do something, right? If I'm going to ski, I want the best equipment. I want to try to ski the hardest terrain. If I'm going to golf, I want to find out how I can actually be decent at this so I can play with good golfers on good golf courses. Let's start with the tee box ethos, like essentially what you guys do and how this idea came about.
So, the idea, obviously, it wasn't mine. Our founder, Preston Unk, he actually got the bug, right? COVID. He was a COVID golfer.
Yep.
But he also liked to work out, so he combined the two, right? We've got a gym in the space, along with all the tech, right? We've got the launch monitors, we've got this 3D swing analysis, right? We've got everything within that, but we've developed over the last year and a half, 2 years, really our model of body, swing, and clubs to kind of get that trifecta of being right, mm-hmm. and getting to be the best player that you want to be, right? So it starts with the body, making sure that that's in place, right? And when we were talking, we actually brought that up during the fitting. It's like, right, we wanted to make sure, and you do, right? You go to the gym, you do yoga, right? So there's some things I'm like, okay, he can move pretty good. Mm-hmm. Now it's just let's match something with this swing, that'll allow him to play better golf, right out of the gate. Getting something that matches your swing is important once you get to that space, right? When we go through, we do something that's called the box assessment, right? So we do a TPI body screen, which is basically 16 different body movements where we check the mobility and stability of a golfer, which will allow us kind of an insight of what we're going to see in the bay when we do the swing analysis.
Yeah.
And so then when we go we'll look at this, we'll look at their limitations in their body. We'll address some limitations within their swing. And during that whole thing, we look at their data on their clubs. And when that needs to be addressed at the proper point, right, it might not be right then because they may need some work on their body or their swing to get to that point where then they're ready for some clubs to take that next level.
So, and it is a process. And let me be clear, it is a process that is very educational, and you will leave having learned a ton about your swing, what fits, what works. different types of equipment. And I think we went through at least 4 or 5 different options, right? Both irons and woods and driver.
We go through, right? We get a baseline with your current equipment. And then right from that, I'm just picking out kind of some areas that I want to address.
Yeah.
Whether that be, hitting certain height windows, launch windows, spin windows, right? And trying to get it in that with some different like head combinations, shaft combinations to try to find that window. And the nice thing is you were a great subject because a lot of the times players will come in and they'll have brand bias. Right?
Yeah.
So they'll want to know what they're hitting, right? And that can influence it. The nice thing about you is when we were going through the testing, you were more intrigued with getting educated on what I was looking at.
Yeah.
To try to get you into the better spot, right?
Right, yeah.
Right? When we started getting the right numbers, we were hitting consistent, peak height numbers, consistent spin numbers, and then consistent. We tighten the pattern up so our distance control with our irons especially got really tight.
Yeah.
And same thing, right? Where you just, if you see those dispersion circles on the track, man, when you've hit a couple of balls, right? We tighten those up, which is what we're looking to do. It wasn't always about, hey, we're going to get you extra yardage, right? If we did and everything else worked out, that's great. But we wanted to get you consistent.
Yeah, and it was interesting because the clubs we settled on weren't the clubs I was hitting the furthest.
No.
To your point, they were the clubs I was hitting the straightest and most consistent. And I don't give a rip about what brand it is. Just make me a better player.
Right.
Give me a better chance to post a better score. And I do have friends that are brand snobs that are already making fun of me for the clubs but I don't care. If
you go out and beat them, right? Guess what? They're going to be coming into me and they're going to be like, "Hey, do the same thing."
I already beat one of them, and I told him I'm going to put you under the jail this summer if you're talking, because he bought the black Titleist irons only because he wanted to look cool, and he has not improved at all. Okay. So, Paul, let me go over to you because you've worked with Jordan for a while, and just the tee box process. Because I've been into indoor simulators before. Right? But it's an entirely different thing. It's a more nuanced, complex, it's just more detailed, right? So you leave with more knowledge of what you want to do in order to just become a better player. Because I can't speak for everybody, but I would imagine most people that are interested in golf would like to go out and play good golf.
Fair.
Likes better golf, yeah.
Yes. So maybe you're one of the guys that goes out twice a year, you got a six-pack, you're hanging out. Okay, that's fine. But if you have been grabbed by this game, like so many people have been grabbed by this game over the past 5 years, why does T-Box make sense to look into?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say about fitting generally. Anybody who pays attention to having shoes that fit their feet, anybody who makes sure their shoes fit their feet should make sure their clubs fit their body. If you want your shoes to fit, you need to do a fitting for your golf clubs as well. And I hope that makes the point. This applies to everybody. Not just great players. It applies to everybody. Your bodies are different. Your swing characteristics are different. You need clubs that fit. And so in that context, a fitting is, as you experienced, an informed trial and error exercise. The informed part matters because it needs somebody like Jordan who is informed, who knows what the devil they're looking at when they see the results from the trials and the errors. And you could have gone through the exact same process you went through, hitting different shots, getting numbers from them, but without somebody like Jordan to know what they mean, you're not going to get there from here. I mean,
100%.
Be like, I can hold up an X-ray and look and see look at the X-ray, but I'm not a doctor. I don't know what it means. So the same kind of thing here. We need somebody like Jordan. Look, Jordan is the best, and so, and what they're doing at T-Box is thorough. The fact that T-Box and his colleagues at the other T-Boxes as well throughout the T-Box system, the fact that they say, what are you doing with your body? Where is your body? How's your health? How's your flexibility? How's your endurance? How's your strength? What are you doing to address those things? That's a part of the fitting experience at T-Box. T-Box has cracked the code on the whole golfer experience. Club fitting is absolutely a part of it, but it's not the only thing, and that's what makes the T-Box experience stand out.
Let me underscore something you said, because I would imagine that there are a lot of people that might be new to the game or curious to learn more about the game, but are a little bit intimidated to go through a process like this. there's no need to be intimidated. Because when it comes to what I witnessed up at T-Box, it was all kinds of people. There was, was it Blake? I mean, there's Blake's kid who's next to us just raking. He's got a beautiful swing. And then there's young kids, older people. I mean, golf has really had this moment.
You probably saw the whole gambit. My guess is that Jim, one of our members, I think he's pushing 90.
Yeah.
And he just goes in there with a smile on his face and just hits balls, and that's what he wants to do.
Yeah. I mean, golf is having this moment, right? And so what you guys have created is kind of a place. And we live in a spot. I know this winter was kind of weird, but like more often than not, we do have a winter.
Yeah.
And so you can go into T-Box in the off season. Again, the gym. So you get kind of a golf catered workout created for you. Is that
you can do there? So through TPI, they've got a mobility workout.
Okay.
And then we do have an app that you can go through, and we can curate kind of a strength workout if that's where you get, right? Mm-hmm. Getting the body, being able to move first, then being able to stack weight on that if you want to, right?
Yeah. Some
people are like, oh, I'm not going to. I'm like, well, let's get you at least moving the right way. But then you say the off season, right? There's no off season, right? And there's an off season, but when you do it in the on season, we can build something for you to use during the off season, right? When you're putting in a lot of the work to make whatever changes you're making. But then the on season, we can put something together so that you can maintain.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want you to I want you to play as much golf. And this is where we're different than a lot of indoor places too, right? I want to see you not as much in the summer, but I still want to see you like doing some fine tuning, making sure the yardages are right, making sure just doing little checks on your swing, right? Maintenance, right? During the year. I want you to play every day if you can.
Yeah.
If your circumstances will allow, play every day, but still come in a couple times a week just to do little checks that you need to do to keep the game that you want to play all summer in place.
Let me ask you a question I've asked Paul multiple times. Because, again, in the spirit of, well, you just witness it if you try to make tee times now or if you just show up at a course. It's hard to get times. My initiative is to hashtag shrink the game, but people don't love that because rounds are longer. So for listeners out there that might be just starting or playing for a couple of years as a professional, what are the best ways to incrementally improve step by step if people are just getting going?
Knowing what you do wrong.
Sure.
Right. You've got to know what you do wrong, right? And knowing how to address that in an efficient way, right? So if you come in to us, right, well, first of all, right, we're going to look at how your body moves, right? So then we can try to build a swing around how your body moves while we're getting your body to move better. But then we'll put together a plan in place that attacks one thing and then the next, right? Stacking, right? We want to address the main problem or the biggest problem, right? And get that addressed before we move on to the next one, right? So that we have this one in place and the habits are built there, and then stack on just little pieces, bit by bit.
Yeah. And the other thing, Paul, I'll bring you in on this, that I've learned, it's impossible to just give, if you and I are having lunch and we didn't know each other and I just said, give me a golf tip, you can't. Because golf swings, the way it was put to me is golf swings are like fingerprints, right? It's so unique to every individual. So, when I kind of first started playing, maybe I'm getting a little bit better. I'm like, no, you need to do. Now I just keep my mouth shut. I don't tell anybody anything because it's hard to give somebody a tip that works for you that may not work for them.
Well, let me start with something universal. Have fun.
For sure.
Make this something that is fun for you. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And it, us guys out there playing, it's not the U.S. Open. Have fun and make sure that it is fun for you. But in the context of what what Jordan was saying, there's something you guys alluded to earlier when you were talking about Nick Taylor. One thing I guarantee you about Nick Taylor is that he knows his strengths.
Yep.
Start with your strength. Mm-hmm. What is it in the game that you're really good at, or that is the thing you are best at among the things that are done? Start with that and build off of that and maintain that and make sure that your strength is what you're building your game off of. And improving, making these incremental improvements that Jordan talked about really well. but start with knowing your strength, and that'll be different. You're right. It is
what you do.
Yeah, it is like fingerprints. Everybody's swing is different, and it's really interesting to see people try to change their swings. I think it's really, really hard.
It takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And that's where it's just maybe making one little tweak. And it's a guy that one of our members, he just got a new driver, but he was struggling with it a little bit. But he had, like, when he came in for the fitting, he was swinging fine. But I think he reverted back, and we talked to him, and I just made a slight just setup change.
Mm-hmm.
And the first swing after I made the setup change, right, he hit it really good, right? I mean, there's still some timing stuff in there, but he was like, oh, my gosh. I'm like, yeah, sometimes you don't need to make big changes. Yeah. Sometimes it's just something as little as making sure you're set up the right way, that your alignment's correct.
Yeah.
Just the fundamentals.
Tommy Sharp, one of the top teachers in the state, talks about that a lot. For a lot of people, the basic swing motion is baked into their body probably at birth. But setup, you have absolute control over setup, and you can take all the time you need. And it's not something
45 seconds.
Well, okay. That's all the time you need. You can take the time you need to get your setup right. And it is a place and a spot in the sequence of going into a golf swing that you have control over. And that is a place to really pay attention.
Take the time you need, but keep it moving.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's another thing. If you're a beginner golfer, do not be afraid to pick it up and move it.
Yeah.
No, please do that.
Absolutely.
Please pick it up and move it.
Yeah.
And take it to a spot.
Yeah.
Tee it up in the fairway. Like, you're there to enjoy
100%.
You're there to enjoy the outdoors, right?
Yeah.
What's not in enjoying the outdoors? Taking a weed whacker 7-iron to the rough,
100%,
and swinging 17 times.
And if your girl wants to go on a double date, go to the range. All right, please. Like, it's baked inside of me because my grandfather hated playing slowly, so much so, like, none of us were any good. And he said, "Pick it up. We got to go." You know,
go there and move it to the green. Yeah,
he's like, "I don't care if you're good or bad. Keep it moving." So it's like baked inside of me that you should play fast. Is that fair?
That's fair. And I think, like I said, and a lot of it is most of the time, right? If you're playing for a handicap, different, right? You've got to count all your shots. Most people aren't playing, don't carry a handicap.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still a lot of members of the UGA, but even there, it's like, if you're having a bad day, it's okay. Just don't count that score.
For sure.
Right. Don't do it a lot if you're gonna carry a handicap, but especially if you're just learning. Right. You hit one 70 yards right, go pick it and put it 100 yards from the green.
Yeah,
because you know you can make contact from 100 yards and get it close to the green.
I love that. Yeah, I was at an unnamed golf course locally last year, and this poor guy, he was on a date. You could tell she had never played before. She's swinging and missing, and then finally hits it like hard right, and he asked her to pick it up, and she just lights into him like, how am I going to get better if I never practice? And we're like 4 groups stacked up. Some interesting experience. And look, I know the game's for everybody, but play fast, right, Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
Play at the pace that the course is moving, absolutely. And what you guys are talking about picking it up and moving on is spot on. Again, this isn't the U.S. Open. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the line, odds are that everybody is going to have one shot that they hit well. They might just really connect and feel the center of the club face on an 8-iron, and it feels so sweet. Oh, my gosh, that's so good. They might roll a 10-foot putt right in the middle of the hole, and that'll carry you on.
That's the one that keeps you coming back, yeah.
That's the one, baby. Yeah.
Jordan, give me some touch points. You're at the tee box in Centerville, and so just one more time for our listeners, I had a really cool experience over the past couple of weeks. For the first time in my life, I went through the process of being fitted for golf clubs, and Jordan is the guy that hooked me up. And I want to underscore, do not be intimidated. It doesn't matter what level you are. This is for you. And also, there are different price points and options for everybody. This isn't something that's out of reach for people.
It's not just a one size. We're going to get you into the top things. And that's one thing, like, if you're a beginner out there, at least try to find something that fits you closer, right, that you can swing. Right, if you're swinging with Grandpa Willie's clubs, and it's probably not going to work out. They're probably super heavy, right, not the right flex, right, whatever that may be, and we can work within that. We can get a set that is right for you at the stage, and at the price point that you need.
I would highly encourage it. What's the best way for people to schedule an appointment or head on in? What's the best way?
tbx.golf
Okay.
Is that one. And then just if you're coming to look at, if you want me specifically, it's the Centerville location. Or they can reach out to me just on my Instagram, JBlocks Golf or
JBlocks Golf?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll send that out. So tbx.golf, is that what it is?
Yep.
tbx.golf. So it is the T-Box. Jordan's up in Centerville. And if you tell Jordan that you heard us talking about it on the show today, Paul will pay for the entire thing.
Or something like that.
Just kidding.
He'll at least play for the fitting.
No, but look, if you're curious what this is really like, we mic'd up Spencer and Jordan during their fitting, during Spencer's fitting, and I published it as a podcast. It's on the Utah Golf Radio podcast, wherever you get your pods. It's easy to search up and find, and you can listen to all the banter and all the talk and know every step they went through. It's really interesting.
You really did leave in the soundbite where I called Jay Drew a cheater.
Well, there's that.
And I called out Randy Dotson. So all our dirty laundry's out there.
No, it's all good. So definitely check it out. Highly recommend it. Like I said, it doesn't matter what level you're at, and it's not something that's going to kill your budget. I'm thrilled that I did it. Cannot wait to get my new clubs in the next few weeks. Paul, what's coming up on Utah Golf Radio tomorrow morning?
We've got two of the new induction members of the brand new Utah Section PGA Hall of Fame. Robert MacArthur and Ken Pettingill will both join us tomorrow. And then something really cool, Britt Butoff, who is the head chef at Jeremy Ranch, just this week got a gig being a chef during the Masters at Augusta National.
Oh, hell yes.
He's going to tell us all about that.
Do they know where he's working? Is he working just one of the places?
Yes. Oh, yes. He'll tell us all about it tomorrow.
Is he forced to make like pimento cheese sandwiches, or
he'll be doing? He's working in the clubhouse with the high end patrons. He'll be doing real chefy
Beckerman's
stuff.
place, which, like I said, if you have a chance, it is definitely an experience.
Yeah.
That you don't get because you get access to the clubhouse gear, which is a little different than the tournament gear.
Very cool.
Beckerman's place.
It is.
It's an amazing thing, and their food was
very cool.
Spectacular.
Yeah. Great to see both of you. Thanks for the time.
Good to see you. Thank you so much.
All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. 5 o'clock hour of the program is next on ESPN 700. All right, what's going on? Drive at 5 time, Friday afternoon style, 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Today has been the most Utah weather day possible. Woke up getting smashed with snow, shoveling the driveways, brushing the car off. Currently, it's sunny and about 44 degrees, and it's supposed to be like 50 over the weekend and into the 60s next week. So a wild weather cycle here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Happy Friday to you. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We've had a very, very busy show, fun show. A lot of good guests so far today. The Jazz are off tonight, but the big story in the National Basketball Association is, in a matter of moments, the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks will play a basketball game in Boston, and Boston will be featuring one Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum making his debut, and he is going to start tonight for the Boston Celtics. 288 days after he tore his Achilles tendon, Jason Tatum is back playing in an NBA game. And with how wide open the Eastern Conference is this year, there's no reason the Boston Celtics can't go win this thing. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles and was out over 500 days. Jason Tatum, 288 days. It's a rather crazy thing. So, busy night tonight in the NBA. Some really good games coming up at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. It'll be the Knicks and the Nuggets from Ball Arena. Got to decipher through which teams are actually trying to win, which teams are not. The Clippers are in San Antonio to take on the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama, historic once again last night against the Detroit Pistons. He had a stat line of 37 points, 18 rebounds, 5 block shots, and 4 3-point shots made. That hasn't happened since 1979. So the San Antonio Spurs continue to put teams on notice. The Utah Jazz won last night, but did they? The Jazz met their match, a team that's actually better at tanking than they are. Jazz took on the Washington Wizards. Fun to see Ace Bailey get a career-high 32 points. They're going to be in Milwaukee to take on the Bucks tomorrow before returning home for a couple of home games next week. The Utah men's basketball team will finish the regular season tomorrow at 3 o'clock at Baylor. They are locked into the 16th seed, which is last place. So Utah will be the 16th seed. There is a chance that Utah will play BYU in the first round of the Big 12 tournament. Now, what has to happen is tonight there is a game in the Big 12 conference. There's only one Big 12 game tonight. It's UCF in West Virginia. If West Virginia wins, BYU's locked at 10 and will play Kansas State. If UCF wins and BYU wins tomorrow night against Texas Tech, and they're a 2.5-point favorite, BYU will be the 9th seed, and they will play Utah in the first round of the not the NCAA. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Utes aren't going to the tournament this year. The Big 12 tournament is where we could see another matchup between BYU and Utah. What are they calling it? The College Football Round Table of Leadership, Axis of Evil, I don't even know what it is, was held today at the White House in Washington, D.C. Taylor Randall was there. The president of the University of Utah was there. Let's see. The list included Urban Meyer was in the house today. So was Nick Saban. Of course, a bunch of government officials, President Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and a number of different influential people throughout the landscape of college athletics. Greg Sankey, all the conference commissioners were there. And the news coming out of it is coming fast and furious as far as, I guess, Donald Trump is issuing an executive order. I'm kind of digesting this in real time. Porter, I know you've been kind of tracking this. Any meat on this bone? What's going on as of now?
No, I mean, as you mentioned, an executive order is all that's come out of it, which would immediately go back to court. It would be the NCAA and trying to make their argument about trying to get back to close to what we saw before the NIL era is essentially what the folks in that room said. Now, to be clear, it was less of a roundtable because about 60 or more of the people involved in that meeting did not speak. It was kind of what you'd expect.
So it was Trump just blabbering for like 2 hours?
And a couple others, but yes.
Geez.
And nothing really substantive out of it. It's going to be an executive order of some kind, and that will then be in court, which is kind of where we were before.
So it was Donald Trump basically creating a facade to get people in a room so he could perform and they could think he was cool. Is that really what it is?
In a hope to save college sports, yes.
So it's like why he put his name on the Kennedy, building, and now nobody wants to go play there because he was never invited to the events before, and he thought if he put his name on the building, he would be able to go to the events. But because his name is on the building, the events aren't happening. Is that what we're dealing with?
I think they're like tearing a bunch of the Kennedy Center down now too.
He's like, we're going to renovate it. It's because nobody wants to play there.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Pretty run of the mill.
All right. Executive order. So a nothing burger, most likely. Howard Beck will join us coming up next. A lot of NBA storylines to get to with Howard. We'll say goodnight about 6 o'clock. Beautiful Friday afternoon. Good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. All right, final segment of the program. Not a ton going on locally tonight. The Jazz are back in action tomorrow, taking on Milwaukee. The Utah men will play Baylor at 3 o'clock. You can hear that game here. Utah State has a chance to wrap up the Mountain West Conference regular season championship against New Mexico up in Logan. The Mammoth are taking on Columbus. Yeah, tomorrow's a busy day. And then senior night for BYU. They will honor Richie Saunders, Kaba Keita. I think the Boscovich kid's a senior, so Texas Tech in town. And RSL taking on Atlanta on the road. So, like, everyone in action tomorrow. No one in action tonight. Busy night in pro hoops. I got to say, man, this Tatum stuff is wild to me. 288 days after a ruptured Achilles, he's starting and playing tonight. It's wild.
Yeah, excited to see what kind of form he is in. As you mentioned, That's a short window. It seems like a very long time. It is a long time, but it's a short window for that injury based on historical standards. But apparently, it's all new. What they're doing there. So we'll have to see what he looks like and if his explosiveness is there. Celtics have been good without him, but that's a dynamic piece that obviously makes them a contender.
I actually think this could work out to their benefit because Jaylen Brown has really grown into this role where while Tatum is easing his way back into it, he can be the primary dude. I actually think this could work out to their benefit. All right, Porter, let's get our weekend started. What comes our way on a Monday edition of the program?
Monday edition of The Drive. We'll talk to Tom Haberstroh, NBA Daily Assist, Bill Riley on the Utes, and, of course, the Big 12 tournament coming up next week. We'll chat with probably an RSL standout from the weekend, maybe Jason Christ, depends on how that matchup goes in Atlanta. And then Frederick Landstedt, as Utah Skiing readies to host the national championships, of course, 17-time national champs. So Frederick will join the program and give us a lowdown there.
We're going to shred the gnar on Monday?
Someone is.
Sick. All right, that'll do it. Special thank you today to Sarah Todd, Howard Beck, Spencer Layton, Paul Pugmire, and Jordan Bloxam. For any of the sound you may miss from the program, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Make sure to download our mobile app. Take us on the go. ESPN 700 app is in the App Store and the Google Play Store for free. And then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon for 4 hours, it is all online for your consumption on our podcast page, which is called The Drive with Spence Checketts. That's available wherever you get your shows. If you have some time over the weekend, please subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It helps. He's Porter. I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Talk to you on a Monday Drive. As always, you can catch that right here on ESPN